All right, it's 7 o'clock. This is the Town of Saugus Board of Appeals meeting. I'd like to introduce the board members: Peter Rossetti, Stephanie Romano, Bob Northup, Chris Riley, John Cannon, and myself, Tom Travis. The way we normally conduct our hearings is generally informal. We'll follow the agenda as it appears in the newspaper advertisement. If anyone is under some personal pressure to be heard out of order, please make it known at that time. What we'll probably do is we'll probably hear the first one here, and then we probably jump to the Fellsway, because I think half the people here from this in the room might just clear out and get a little bit easier, okay? But the attorney for the petitioner isn't here yet, so we'll give him a few minutes to get here. Noting that's about, you can come from the board for 3 reasons: to seek a variance for some dimensional relief, for a special permit to do something to your property, or to seek an appeal against a decision of the building inspector. I've asked all the board members to view the properties and be prepared to make decisions this evening, if at all possible. Once the board has made its decision, the clerk will have 14 days to prepare the decision and get that decision to the town clerk and to be stamped in and filed as an official record. From the date the town clerk stamps in the decision, there is another period of 21 days, which gives time anyone who is not satisfied with the board's decision may file an appeal to the court. In this case, a judge will hear the case from the beginning, and acting in the first place, the judge will decide if the board's decision will stand. If at the end of the 21-day appeal period there is no appeal filed with the town clerk, you may get a copy of the board's decision, time-stamped by the town clerk, and then you then need to take that copy to the Salem Registry of Deeds to get it recorded with your deed of record. Once this is done, you will bring the decision, which now has a recording number, back to the Inspectional Service Department in Town Hall to request your permits. After completing the necessary paperwork and paying the necessary fees, the building inspector can issue your permit based on any conditions we put forward. Are there any questions at this point? At this time, I'd like to ask anyone who wishes to speak this evening to be sworn in at one time. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Tonight we're missing our clerk, Stephanie, because everything's being filmed. So she's going to take the minutes off the filming. So please, if you get up there, state your name, and you might, if needed, you feel, and it's not a simple last name, please spell it out for her and give your address. To get into things, the first item on here is on the petition of George Nickley Family Trust, Rudbeckia Properties LLC, owners of property at 799/799 Broadway, lot number 16, plan number 1036, on behalf of Raising Cane's, seeking a special permit to alter a pre-existing non-conforming sign and a variance for an 18-foot sign where 15 is allowed and an 18.5 width where 15 is allowed. 2 signs will be combined into one. And the petitioner's representative?
Got the flag.
Okay. I'm sorry, I forgot this is why it's informal, I forget things. Pledge allegiance to the flag. Please rise. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Mackey.
Yes. Proceed.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, Attorney Richard Magnan of an office at 194 Central Street here in Saugus, representing the George Nickley Family Trust. Ted and Ernie Nickley are the trustees and property owners, as well as Raising Cane's, who are represented by Sarah Holmes, who's president, and Andrew Harvey from Harvey Sign Company. The petitioner has been through the town process for the approval of the Raising Cane's at the location on Broadway where the old Alto Furniture used to be. The petitioner has been through the pre-application meeting with the town manager and the DPRC review with the department heads, which led to their appearance before the planning board and approval of a master plan and a site plan at that site. In addition, they appeared before the Board of Selectmen for a special permit for a drive-through, and that was also approved. This time, we're before you for purposes of a special permit to alter a pre-existing non-conforming sign, the present standing pylon sign in front of the Alto Furniture, and with a variance on two dimensions, length and width, which exceed the 15 feet permitted. They are 18 and 18.5 respectively. The application indicated a before and after sign situation where the present Nicolay sign would be removed completely. Those cabinets on that sign would be moved to the pre-existing non-conforming sign, and petitioner would submit that it's not more detrimental to the, substantially detrimental to the neighborhood as the present non-conforming sign, and we're prepared to answer any questions about that.
The only comments I really have that, I think it's an improvement going from two signs to one sign. And even though there's a slight expansion of the sign above what's allowed, it is in the shadows of a giant cactus. So that being said, I don't think we should really have a problem with 3.5 feet in width or 3 feet. Do I have any questions or any comments on the board?
Jim.
Only, sorry,
Go ahead. No, I'll defer.
just only question on the existing Nicolay sign. You said that'd be removed altogether. So that
Altogether.
means Footings coming out as well.
Everything.
That's all.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yeah, the colors are gonna be the colors that are depicted?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
no flashing lights or anything like that?
There is a reader board as there is on the Nicolay sign presently. It's the same small reader board. It's going to just be moved to the other side.
Where it says that's all chicken on our rendition, that's a reader board? On the very bottom?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That section.
Got it?
Very small in
Yep.
size. Any other questions from the
I
board?
have no questions.
Any questions from the audience? Do I,
Ms. Rose?
seconded by the chair?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
On the petition of George Nicolay Family Trust, Rebecca, is that how you pronounce it?
Rebecca.
Rebecca Properties
LLC.
LLC, owners of the property at 799/799R Broadway, Lot 16, Plan 1036, on behalf of Raising Cane's, seeking a special permit to alter a pre-existing non-conforming sign. Grounds would be that it is no more detrimental. You're going from two signs to one sign. Granted, the sign is slightly larger, but it's an improvement on the Route 1 landscape.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
And I guess I'll do the roll myself. Mr. Norfolk?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. You're all set?
Okay, should we do the variance?
Oh, I'm sorry, there's variance also.
Okay, variance for an 18-foot high sign where 15 is allowed and an 18.5 width where 15 is allowed. The two signs will be combined into one. It would be the shape of the lot, the configuration of the topography of the lot also. And again, it would be no more detrimental because you're combining two signs into one.
That's seconded by the chair. And that, you took care of all the conditions. And Mr. Northup,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Rosetti,
Yes,
and I'm a yes also.
Thank you very much.
You're all set.
Yeah, no.
Just so people know, we have six, it's a five-member board, and there's six people up here. So one of us sit out each one, and we use five. And that one Stephanie sat out. Unless anyone has any objection, I'm gonna jump ahead to the Fells Way, 'cause I think most of the audience is here for that. And the petitioner's attorney is here now? Did I see Mr. Turco?
I think he went back out.
Oh, he did?
Mr. Turco, if we could take it out of order if you'd like.
Yeah, it's fine.
A good majority of the audience is here for that.
I figured as much.
So this is a continued hearing for March 28th on the petition of 320 Revere Beach Parkway LLC, owners of the property at 409 Lynn Fells Parkway, lot number 57, plan number 1036, an appeal to the building inspectors to change its current non-conforming use from retail floral in a residential zone to retail suit tuxedo sales rental with related floral sales in a residential zone. And Mr. Turco is representing the petition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. At the last meeting, the board voted to continue us till this meeting so that I would speak with Attorney Vassapoli on behalf of the town. Attorney Vassapoli was away. We did have a brief discussion today, and ultimately he said, look, it's up to the board to decide based on the evidence that's before it. There's really not much I can add to that. So I did tell him, based on his letter, he had raised questions about whether, we've shown that it was a prior non-conforming use. I think his response, I don't want to take words out of his mouth, but
Yep.
is, I don't think that's in dispute that it was a prior non-conforming use. The question is whether or not abandonment or non-use is in effect. But I did prepare sort of a memo to the board with exhibits that I referred to last time and supplemented based on my discussions, if I may approach.
Certainly.
Thank you. I have copies for each member of the board if you'd like me to give them, or if you want.
Okay.
That's, if people want them. So basically what I did, Mr. Chairman, just to answer Attorney Vassapoli's question about the history of the property, and most of you know this, but I'll just sort of briefly, I did file a public records request for some of the changes in the zoning ordinance over the last decades. The town of Saugus basically said they didn't have anything other than today's current zoning ordinance. So what I did was I went through and reviewed. Saugus does have a very comprehensive annual report system, that most of which has been digitized. And so I went on to and started reading. In 1928, the town of Saugus adopted its first zoning ordinance, which took effect in 1929. And that zoning ordinance, which set up the residential districts, I've included as Exhibit 1, specifically talks about residential districts, and then it says, except, no land, building, structure, or parts thereof shall be used except for one or more of the following purposes. And then it lists 9 separate purposes: one, family detached and semi-detached houses, the taking of boarders or leasing of rooms by a family resident on the premises, churches, so on and so forth. And then it goes down to number 6 is farms, greenhouses, nurseries, truck gardens, and the sale of produce raised on the premises under conditions prescribed by the building inspector and the selectmen. And so This property, prior to it becoming in 1945, 1946, Petrie's Florist and Greenhouse, the historic record I could find says it was the Hannah Hawks Farm. But at the time this took effect in 1929, this was an allowed use. Saugus didn't change that and ban that until the early 70s. And I think one of the board members might even have been on the board at the time, or a family member might have been on the board. And if you look at the annual reports of Saugus in the 60s, the late 60s, they start talking about, well, now that Saugus Center's developed, we're going out into sort of the farther edges of the town, and we need to change some of the residential zoning, particularly greenhouses. And people complained about greenhouses and farms back then. And so that's when the zoning was changed, which made these properties non-conforming uses. And so the property was actually, as of right, under the zoning ordinance from 1929 when it was opened up as a florist and greenhouse. And then sometime in the 70s it became non-conforming, but again, subject to the protections of the law. So I included in the Exhibit 2 just Mr. Petrie's obituary, his daughter Margaret's obituary, which all refer to when the place opened up in 1940. One says 45, one says 46, but I think for your analysis it doesn't matter which year it was. And then Exhibit 3, and all of these go to just proving that the place was certainly a non-conforming use. Exhibit 3, I have advertisements on the property from May 28, 1948, the Boston Globe, May 29, 1948, the Boston Globe, March 26, 1959, the Lynn Item, or Daily Evening Item, or Daily Item as it was called then, May 8, 1970, Boston Globe. Then there's a December 16th, 1976, May 2nd, 1973, April 6th, 1994. There's a story that references Petrie's Florist, and then again July 3rd, 2012, a story again about Petrie Florist and Ed Gain, the successor owner, that I guess has caused some of the angst with some of the neighbors. And then there's just an excerpt from a webpage of Petrie's Florist talking about when it started. All that's off. But again, I don't think it's seriously in dispute the prior non-conforming nature. But even if it were, thank you, even if it were, under Exhibits 4.1, 2, and 3, those are the zoning board decisions that were issued in 1986, again in 1995, and in 1998. All of those refer to this is a prior non-conforming use. All of those granted either a variance or a special permit to the property in that capacity as a prior non-conforming use. Why is that important to the analysis? Because under General Law 48, Section 7, non-conforming uses are given protection. And there's a statute of repose, which is not a statute of limitations. For those of you that are attorneys will know it. The statute of repose says once the final decision of the board is made on the use or the structure, there's a 10-year statute of limitations and a 6-year statute. It's 10-year or 6-year statute of repose for an aggrieved abutter to file suit and to challenge the determination of the board. Once that's done, that they lose the right to challenge that. So only on the subset issue of whether it's a non-conforming use, that's not even subject to challenge at this point under black letter law in Massachusetts. Now we get to the stuff that people can challenge. I would say preliminarily that the issue of abandonment in non-use I don't even believe is before the board. The only petition that we filed, we appealed the determination of the building commissioner who said, hey, it's a residential zone, you can't do that here. And so if you want a special permit to be able to operate a tuck shop, then you have to apply for a special permit. That's the sole issue that's been raised. The building commissioner never issued a decision to me or my client saying, you've abandoned your use, you haven't used your use, and therefore it's gone. That would have been subject to appeal, but it wasn't. And so I think as a procedural matter, I'm not even sure if it's properly before you.
I agree with you there.
You know, so then we get to Exhibit 6, just is the deed to the property, just showing that my client is in fact the owner. Exhibit 7 is the business certificate that I referred to at the last meeting that the town of Saugus issued to Russo's, dated November 10, 2022, which is effective for 4 years. Exhibit 8 is, I told you the steps at the last meeting, and I don't, unless you want me to, I won't go through in detail, but Ms. Russo attempted to get an occupancy permit for the tuck shop. She filed the application with the different attorney. The only thing she got back in the mail was a refund of her check in the envelope from the town of Saugus. No explanation, no rationale, not even a copy of the rejected petition or non-objected. Exhibit 9 is the Odeon Dwyer parking plan, which shows the parking spaces. This is up to date as of October of '23. Now, if the board chooses to get into the deliberation on the abandonment issue in the non-use issue, we did supply an affidavit, reserving our right to object to it at a later date. We did supply an affidavit from Ms. Russo talking about her use of the property and gives detail of what she did at the property and when she did it. We didn't bring, but we can get to you, electric bills and water bills that will back up the fact that the premises were used starting at a given point in time for a duration of time. And in essence, what happened was Mrs. Russo wanted to move Russo's Tucks here. She was sort of going through the process with the town, getting conflicting signals. Ultimately, she was advised by counsel, not myself, a different counsel, hey, make sure you don't let a 2-year period go by. So in February of 2023, Mrs. Russo, and it's in her sworn affidavit on the penalty of perjury, her and her family-owned business, they have corsages and boutonnieres as part of their tux business. They made those corsages and boutonnieres at the premises during the month of February 2023 in advance of the junior prom season. Some of those were then delivered to Russo's Tux in Reading to be given out with people when they rented their tux. Some of them were actually distributed right from the location as part of the business operation. Ms. Russo at the time said, you know what, it just doesn't work trying to do both. I preserve my right by stopping the clock on the 2 years and sort of restarting the clock. And so now I can then go through the regular process with the town. So the affidavit, other than what I would suggest to you respectfully is, other than anecdotal information from neighbors saying we didn't see the place used, there's no sworn testimony. There's nothing from a town inspector that says they went there and that they viewed the place over a course of 2 years and showed 2 straight years of a minimum of 2 years of non-use. There's nothing. There's anecdotal evidence from neighbors, but that's not facts and that's not evidence. I included, in our petition, we talk about what Russo's hours are right now. Small family-owned business, how many days a week, 5 days a week, how many hours in the off-season, slow season, and how many hours a week in the longer season. I also included Exhibit 11. I pulled this offline. It didn't have a year on it, but these are the hours that were listed for Petrie Florist at the time we bought the place, and showing that it's, I think, about 62 hours a week. Russo's proposes to use the place for far less than that, which I think goes to the substantially more detrimental argument later on. I included under Exhibit 12 2 letters that I referred to and read into the record last time from abutters that support the project. So if we get to, so there's 3 separate issues. Again, non-conforming use, we have a duty to show you that it's a prior non-conforming use. I think your records from the board show that it was. The board made that determination on 3 separate occasions. Unappealed, final, binding decisions. Statute of repose wipes out an ability to challenge that determination. So I think we should move then to the second question is, we take the position that it's not before you the issue of non-use or abandonment. But even if it was, we think that the evidence shows every step in the way Mrs. Russo took to go out and apply for permits. Somebody that's trying to abandon, the abandonment element requires that there be an intention to abandon. And what I would suggest is all the steps she's taken, applying for a business license, going before filing an application with the building department for a occupancy permit, filing an application with the selectmen based on what the building department said to do, select board, excuse me, and then filing this application, all indicate, far from trying to abandon the use or having an intention to abandon the use, that in fact she intended to use the property for the purpose. Then we go to the second half of that equation is the 2 years. I would suggest to you have the sworn affidavit of Ms. Russo Mrs. Russo talking about her use of the property in February 2023, and I think that stops the clock. There's nothing from a building department that says, hey, we went there and inspected the place. You know, still to this day, the building department hasn't been there. And so I think that all of that sort of, when you're weighing the evidence as to what's before you, the only evidence is her affidavit. And then we get to the final part, which Mr. Rossetti asked some questions about what the standard was at the last time. And again, we talk about retail floors to retail tucks, and you know, there's sort of two tests. First, you look at, is there a change? And I would suggest to you that retail tucks and retail floors, there's not a substantive change that actually triggers any further analysis. But I'll make it easy for you. Let's assume that there is. Then the standard in the law is it substantially more detrimental? And the reason I say, and I heard a snicker in the back, is that why it's not a change. Number one is the Almeida case, which I cite here, and I brought copies if anyone wants it, but I cited to the case Almeida versus Arruda. That was the case I talked about last time, where a convenience store sought permission to extend their non-conforming use by being able to sell beer and wine. And it went up to it had a trial. The Board of Appeals said they could do it. The trial court said they could do it, went up on appeal, and the appeals court said it's not even a change in use that triggers the further analysis about substantial detriment, because you're still doing the same thing. You're still selling products to the public. And what's interesting in Almeida, they go through, so we're not going to do the analysis about is it substantially more detrimental. But what's interesting in Almeida is the neighbors talked about traffic. They talked about if they sell beer and wine, there's going to be drunks that are littering in the ground. In the court, the appeals court and the trial court both said, you know, that's something that runs with the road. That's not something that runs in the nature of the business. And the trial judge actually laughed, you know, put in there saying, it makes no sense to think somebody's going to go buy their beer and immediately drop it on the ground outside the place. You're more likely to buy it down the street and drop it on your way home. And so in that case, when they talked about, well, is there increased traffic? Is there, usage? They specifically talked about that, and they said that's not a sufficient change to make it a change under the law that requires you to get to the next step. But again, even if you do, I recognize the politics that, you heard from a selectman member of the select board at the last meeting. I recognize the politics of having a bunch of angry residents there, but they don't object. Well, they'll say tonight they do, but if you heard them last meeting, you watched that video, and I went back to watch it, and you watch it, they don't object to whether it's a tuck shop. They object to any commercial use there. But you know what? I live next to Logan Airport. I bought my house next to Logan Airport. It's kind of hard to complain that I listen to planes at night when I chose to buy my house there. And so you bought your houses next to a non-conforming use as a commercial property, and that's what it's been since 1945, 1946. And whether we're selling flowers there, it's not going to make the complaints go away. People are going to still be upset about it. Hopefully Mrs. Russo, when she's there operating, will show the neighbors that she'll be a good neighbor. I read through the file, the problems the neighbors had with Mr. Gaynor. We're not looking to replicate those problems. We didn't make any proposal to change one thing in the structure of the building, not to add anything outside, simply to change what's actually part of commerce inside. So I'm happy to answer any questions for you, and I thank you. You've indulged me quite a bit at the last meeting in this, and I thank you. Mrs. Russo did you want to read the statement or no?
If you want me to.
Yeah. Mrs. Russo did have a statement she was going to submit to the paper, but I told her that it was more appropriate to submit here. And so if you don't mind, give her a minute to read it.
Oh. This one, right? Okay. Hi. My name is Maria Russo. I'm a third generation to own Russo's Tucks and Formalwear. We've owned and operated Russo's Tucks in Chelsea, Massachusetts for 50 years. COVID forced our family to make many changes. We operated solely by appointment for 1.5 grueling years. Went from 26 employees down to 4. Now during COVID, my son decided he wanted to take over, change his career, and this is what he wanted to do. So we sold our Chelsea location. Owning and operating a small business is next to impossible unless you own the property, especially a seasonal business like ours. In November 2021, we sold our 10,000 square foot property in Chelsea and purchased 409 Linfeld Saugus, known for 75 years as Petrie's Florist. it felt like it was fate. Similar business. We already sold corsages. We promote many florists, as we know. It's small, perfect for my son to operate single-handedly when needed. Me and my husband were looking to retire for be snowbirds and just run it seasonally, like a costume shop. So not year-round, just more seasonally. We're open 40 hours a week. We're closed on nights. We're closed Sundays. We don't open till 12 o'clock every day. We're closed all major holidays. Winters by appointment only. We chose Saugus because we love Saugus. I bought my first house in Saugus when I was 20 years old. I lived there. I got married at a Blessed Sacrament. I didn't move to Stoneham until I took over taking care of my handicapped brother in 98. So I had to get a house with an in-law. My son lives in Saugus. He lives with his girlfriend. His girlfriend's been here the 6 years they've been together. He wanted to raise his family in Saugus, so he just wants to run a small little tuck shop out of Petrie's, which is fine, and I get it. If the neighborhood doesn't know, I get it. It is what it is. But everyone's easy to say, like, go up Route 1. Well, yeah, if you want to pay $40, $50 a foot, if I have $1 million, I do not. So we're not looking to ruin neighborhoods, just to earn a living in the corporate world. Our customers visit us for funeral suits, wedding attire, business suits, and prom attire. And tailoring. We do tailoring. If you need a pants hemmed, or I'm a tailor, my husband's a tailor, my son's a tailor. That's it. Our property will be free and clear from clutter and debris. Our busiest month is May. October, November, December, January, we plan to hopefully close, if not just do appointment only. He'll just wait on people himself. I will be nowhere near the place. I'm going to be in the winter somewhere warm, hopefully. And that's it. We've always supported Saugus High School. We work with Saugus High School. We give them special rates. And that's it. That's it. There was nothing malicious when we bought Petrie's. It was just, wow, it's similar. Actually, I looked at the building in 2017, was going to buy it. And it just wasn't the thing. But then when COVID forced our sale in Chelsea, that was it. So, yeah, that's my story. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, and we're happy to take questions or.
Okay.
And if I could, what she talked about for the restrictions on hours, you know, if it helps the board get to a yes, she's happy to make those. I noticed in the 1998 special permit, the board put in certain requirements.
I don't think the hours are within our
Okay,
authority. That's probably selected.
but the seasonal,
Business
whatever.
hours are probably selected issue. Would you think so, Peter, Mike? Yeah.
Okay. But happy to take any questions.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
From the audience, yeah.
Isn't there another location? Don't you have another location?
No, I had
They
26
rent.
employees before
No, hold on.
COVID.
They rent. Russo's Tux is operating
Reading.
out of Reading, Mass. right now
That's what I
in a
was asking.
rented property.
You're running in business.
But this is our last year. We only signed a lease up
Maria,
until now.
If they, you know, if this is approved.
So Chelsea's
then
closed.
Chelsea's
And
closed.
you only have
If-
Reading.
If Chelsea's
We only have
closed, we only have
Reading,
Reading, and
right.
Reading would close and come here. There'd be one Russo's Tux location, and somebody asked us, no limos, absolutely none.
Do
It's not
limos,
allowed.
we
It's
don't
not
do
allowed.
anything anymore. Just tuxedos.
So at that location, you sell prom attire and all that?
Tuxedos and suits. And that
So
location
you're-
we're closing this year. We just did that temporary for 3 years.
So you're bringing it down?
We already brought it down, honey. There's 4 people that
Please,
work in the store.
through the-
Me, my husband, my
Supposed
son,
to
and I have
put
one
your
other
question
person.
through the chair.
Okay, so I have another question. Who is going to be, we've already had, I know this sounds so sweet and lovely and nice, small family business. The reason we're all poisoned is because of how they came in and all the bad things that happened. Selling cars from their parking lot, having boats stored, yes, used cars from the parking lot, having boats stored there, having loud music that honestly goes on for hours, that you can hear in the next street over with the television on. Just all kinds of things happening like that, that we went, oh dear God, who are these people and what are they doing? That's my question. Who's gonna be in charge of, you know, bringing this down?
I know, I just want to, all right, so I just want to address the issue on what happened with the noise and all that. So anyways, last year when we tried to open as Russo's and we couldn't, and they kept delaying us, my son, my 23-year-old son who's taking over the business from me and my husband, he moved into the place because there's a full apartment upstairs. And that was really it. He's just hanging there waiting for, the day that someone says, yeah, because and to him it's his dream job, because in the winter he can work all by himself. He can do appointment only, and that's
what's
it.
scary to us.
But he's not
If
going to
that
live
kid
there,
is-
though, when the
If that
tuck
kid
shop is
gonna
there.
live there, and he thinks making all that crazy noise is okay.
But can I-
Well,
And selling
no.
cars
Can I
out
say
of the
one
parking
thing?
lot
No
is
one ever
okay.
if anyone ever knocked on the door and said,
I called,
don't,
I talked to your husband, and I talked to your son,
about noise?
about noise, about the cars being sold, about the boat.
But wait, the car, they got rid of it right away, and they got rid of the boat.
But
And the
I'm
boat was
saying
just, yeah, but the boat
No,
was just,
All right, all right.
I know, but I'm not saying, we
Listen,
don't do
we're
this
gonna
stuff
stay, we're
normally.
gonna stay focused.
You did
So-
to us.
So here's the, so in answer to your question,
Christmas
in answer to your
decorations
question,
No.
there's been no proposal to alter the property at all. By definition, you have to shrink. If you saw the old Russo's Tucks and you saw the one in Reading, you have no choice but to shrink the operation
that's
because
not
there's
the-
just
we
not
get
enough
that.
property,
That wasn't the
there's not
question.
enough place to put anything there.
Yeah,
If,
no, that wasn't the question.
if you had a, I mean, well, if your question is you thought the kid was too loud with his music because he had his friends over playing the band.
No, that
It-
is not,
no,
excuse
but
me, you're really dumbing it down. We're there, you weren't there.
Okay, so-
This is continual for hours, practicing, I don't know if he's in a band or whatever.
You should've called the
Practicing.
police.
I
I
called
would've.
the police. I called your husband and I called your son.
Well,
And
I could've told you not to call my
used
All right, Maria.
cars-
Don't
Maria?
call the police, I'm just saying. We're not trained.
No,
I'm
we're
sorry.
not like, that's what I'm saying, you're saying angry neighbors, maybe angry neighbors would call the police for everything. We weren't.
May I ask, are your plans to continue the residential part of the
No.
property?
No,
It's
no,
just 'cause
it
it was
was,
a vacant building.
So you plan on abandoning the residential part of anyone living in the building?
Correct.
Yes, and it'll be just formal.
it'll be just the formal wear, just the tux, corsages, and boutonnieres.
But it will be the same person who caused the stuff before running the place, correct? It's your
That's what's
son.
scary.
Well, it'll
Right,
be
and
me and
now
my
I know
husband.
that-
Again,
and my
again.
son.
I'm just asking a question, I mean, that's true. Addressing her statement of how lovely the situation is, because it wasn't lovely for us. And I think it's, if the son was doing
But
it
if they
before-
abandon the residence
but-
and nobody's living
but he's
there,
just gonna be, I mean, he's just a
gonna run the
property owner
business.
at that point.
So when the business is closed, is he gonna have his band practice there? It's legal.
I mean, their livers
Why
there
wouldn't
now,
he?
why not?
He's living there now.
just got through saying they would not be living there.
When?
It-
That's,
And what,
you're
Mr.
just hearing what they want you to hear.
I'm hearing all sides. I'm not ignoring you at all.
Okay, all right.
I want to ask one, I want to make
Certainly.
one statement, but I want to ask one question that I asked the very first night when before it was postponed to continued. And I asked, and you answered. And in respect to you, it really wasn't your position to answer. I want to know why that property, why was it bought for the use of a
She
Tuxedo
answered that tonight,
place?
Mrs.
One
Gibbons.
minute, please.
He answered it. Cost $1 million to be out on Route 1.
What?
Cost millions of dollars to be out on Route
Excuse-
1.
All right, I'm gonna ask
There-
the question, please. I asked it the first time
All
and
right.
you answered it.
But you did
You
answer
said
that
it because she bought it. Well, I wanna know, knowing on every real estate thing that I saw advertising for that property, it says disclosure to be used only as residential or a small floral shop. Every single time, and you did, nobody said that you were gonna automatically get a non-conforming zoning change. So why did you buy that property? What is the asset of having that particular property in that particular location, knowing that you may not get a permission from this board to change the zoning?
Because, ma'am, as I said at the last meeting, and I'll state again, when they originally bought the property in November of 2021, the initial plan was to actually run a florist shop there initially. That was in late December of that year. More information than you need. Mrs. Russo's husband had a massive heart attack. That then caused them in January of 22, a month later, to have to make a decision. Can we operate a floral shop in Saugus and a tuck shop? And they made the decision they couldn't because of the health concerns. She's taking care of her handicapped brother. Now she's got a husband who's on limited hours, limited energy during the day because of his heart attack and the stents they put in. So now she went and talked to a broker and said, find me a florist that will rent the place. got a bunch of people who are interested, all for $1,500 or $2,000 a month in rent. She said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, maybe it makes sense as I'm downsizing, instead of trying to run 2 businesses, let me try to downsize and run 1 business at the tuck shop. And again, so that's how we did this evolution to it. But again, what I'd say to you is, your concern is with the business at the location. That's everything you've heard.
Don't speak for me.
I'm not speaking for you. I'm
You
saying.
just said your
all right,
concern, so
the,
I'm gonna
the
tell you my
collective,
concern.
collective concern at the last meeting
not
was.
listening.
Go ahead, ma'am.
You're saying my concern, and you said that was the main concern last time, and nobody was really upset about the Tux place. And that isn't what I heard last time. And my concern is the Tux place, because but I'm not concerned, if the florist went in there, that's one thing. But the Tux is a concern, because that Tux, it changes the dynamics of the.
How? The 36 Saugus High School boys and girls that went, boys that went and got tuxes, are they like a detriment to your neighborhood?
What does that have to?
Because that's who goes there to get, that's who goes to Russo's Tux in Reading to get tuxes.
And we didn't say
The
that
8
they
members
were
of the Elks leadership that just went and got tuxes at Russo's instead of going to Reading would get them in Saugus, is that a danger?
I thought I had the floor.
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
Well, he's got the
You
floor.
should be able to ask me.
You know, I'm actually, and then, maybe I will.
I
come up
see
and
you.
have may I take the podium?
Please.
Well, is that, how would you prefer to handle it?
Certainly, you can take the podium.
Excuse me, please. Have nothing against tuxedo stores, nothing against you as your family personally, and I will share this at this point, that I have rented many tuxedos from Russo's. And for weddings and many proms, so it's not against you personally. However, it is about the tuxedo business being there. And so some of the things that you were saying are not valid, and I think that a lot of the neighbors here are saying that it is gonna change the dynamics. It is gonna change the traffic flow. When did you do a traffic study?
How do you do a traffic study comparing a florist and a tux place?
Well, what is what is the traffic study that's gonna be going that way? Have you decided?
There's traffic, there's
you
no
think-
traffic issue other than what a florist, it's the same thing.
Well,
The same
there are
time people
pl-
looking
there
for
are-
flowers, they're looking for
Okay,
tuxedos.
there are many traffic issues in that area.
You really shouldn't be
It's-
talking to one another,
I understand.
And it's an
I know.
environmental, I mean, there are many environmental
but
issues.
I don't know if a traffic study was required by the town. I believe it probably was
No,
not.
I was asking her, she was saying that it wasn't
I
gonna
don't-
change the
I really don't
I
think
was
it was-
asked how
You know,
is it
I
gonna
just don't
change
think
the
it was
dynamics
required.
of everything? And it is. It's a bigger business, it's a different business.
I don't think it's required in that location. Isn't that a state highway by any chance?
That isn't what I'm saying. I was asked
Well,
how
I don't think a
having
traffic study
tux-
was required.
Can be requested,
I saw Mr. Long's hand in the audience.
can be requested.
Yes, Mr. Long.
Thank you.
You don't mind yielding to Mr. Long, do you?
Pardon me?
Mind yielding to Mr. Long?
no.
Just sit down.
All right, let me just back up and hold on, because I have a cane and I
That's
live with it,
okay, I
I just took off without.
I know.
Mr. Chairman, Robert Long, 26 Bennett Avenue. First, frankly, I miss this place being a florist shop, because my wife and I used it for many,
Yeah.
many years. And they did a great job as far as taking care of our business was concerned. However, when it comes down to all this going back and forth, has it been established if this business, other than the deposition, has it been established that this business has ceased operation for 2 years? Because despite the recognitions,
That's what-
no, wait a minute, please. The attorney has said this year, that year, this year, this, that's fine. That's just recognizing, the non-conforming use. But the board, but in our bylaws itself, it says the non-conforming use is if it ceases business within the 2-year period. If there's a break in the business, it ceases to have the, what do you call it, the non-conforming use. And it reverts to the underlying zoning, which in this case is R2. So,
But Mr. Long, That's not even, we're not here on that issue. If you read the petition, we're here on whether or not the petition doesn't mention anything about abandonment of a 2-year use.
I got your, I have your
It
letter.
doesn't mention anything about 2-year use.
It doesn't matter, Mr. Chairman, about the use of changing the use if the non-conforming use as a business property has ceased to exist. And that's I'm interested in finding out. Has it ceased to, have you seen tax returns? Have you seen invoices from vendors? Have you seen anything like that? To verify and substantiate that this was in operation?
That, as far as I'm concerned, that's not the question that's in front of us.
Question for?
That's not the question in front of us. We're not dealing with that right now.
How can you then make a decision on changing the operation there, not knowing whether or not it really has the use as a business?
I think that's the second part of the question once we get through the first one.
Wouldn't that be the first part, and then go to the second part? Really, Tom, I mean, Mr. Chairman.
No, that's okay. This is informal. I think,
Yeah, no, I
I
mean,
don't have mine back and forth.
I can understand everybody's concern. I'm just concerned as a person who, who donates my
Right.
time,
I know.
to rules and regulations regarding the town rather, that this be adhered to in the most correct way. And to me, is there a continuous, did they continue business? And can you verify that? Fine, then go on to changing whether it be a tax business or a floral business.
And Mr. Turco has presented things.
And Mr.
With the
Turco
last
talked
2
about a
years.
sworn deposition from, I'm saying, do you have anything else from that?
There
That you
were
can
some
present?
advertisements and such, and
You have tax returns. You have bills from vendors who supplied and delivered to that location.
I would defer to him, but I believe that he told me there were some vendor bills.
Yeah, but I mean, have you seen them?
I have not personally seen
You
them.
know how I feel about talk.
I have not personally seen them.
It's cheap. And I'm saying, I'm a person who all my life had to see something in writing that I could look at and say, this is true. And that's what I think we need to see here before you go on to making a decision as to whether it will be a tax business or a floral business. Thank you.
Mr. Sereno, I'll get you off.
I'd like to finish.
Well, Mr. Sereno's talking. You're on the same side.
So I didn't get a chance.
No,
so
you will,
everybody
you'll be
kinda
able to
controls
complete.
it.
But you're talking the same,
I'll wait.
he's-
Thank you, Mr.
He's on your
Chairman.
side.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members.
I'll wait.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and
Yes, you're
board
welcome.
members. I had the opportunity to get the legal opinion from John Vassapoli after the last meeting. I had the opportunity to get the legal opinion from John Vassapoli's office, and it's quite evident that they felt that the use of the property is a lawful, pre-existing non-conforming use of the land, but the use of the property as a florist shop, regardless of the legal status, has not been abandoned. To allow a lawful change or to continue, the Board of Appeals must find that the use and the change shall not be more detrimental to the existing neighborhood, and I don't think we've established that. When you look at a seasonal florist shop compared to a year-round tuxedo place, which rents tuxedos for weddings, not just for proms, I think at a four-way intersection, I think we'd be more detrimental. But, they gave a history to the past permits. The permits which we first heard about 1955 to 1956, those were for a temporary florist shop, for Christmas season only. Those permits were not full permits. So I think the use is unlegal conformance.
But plus they noted that it's unclear whether the permits were ever recorded in the registry of deeds. I went on the registry of deeds in Salem and I couldn't even find the property listed on their website, so I don't know. And but you have to assume that the property's use as a floor shop began in 1995, a temporary use. But he also said that, and I think Attorney Turco would try to address it. I don't think he provided enough information for the board to make a decision that that has been open since 2003. So he, like they said in his original opinion at last meeting, that the property does not have there's not enough evidence to conclude the florist shop and the use of the property is a lawfully pre-existing non-conforming use. Since the temporary variances were granted around 55, 56. So I don't think he has really provided any information to prove that. But if you look at the history in Saugus, this land is zoned residential. And our zoning bylaws, allowed that on properties, greenhouses on properties. We had some on Bristol Street, 3 Essex Street, Vine Street, Huberman, Salt Marsh, Crescent Ave, and Petrie's, and all those greenhouses were on residential property. None of them ever came to change the use. What we're doing here was we're trying to change a use for a greenhouse in a residential district. We're trying to change that use now into a B1 commercial district. So say the Russo family decides to sell, we're going to put a Dunkin' Donuts here now that now that it's been approved for a B1 business, and that's what we're talking about now. And I just don't think this is the right thing to do. I think it's setting a bad precedent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Kitty, if you want to complete what you had to say. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just know that those two speakers were
My name's
going
Jack.
along with
Okay.
what you were saying.
What I got up here to say was not quite as strong. However, I would like you to know that my home that I live in is the Hannah Hawks house. And you were saying that this was the Hannah Hawks. And actually my grandfather and fathers and uncles bought the property and built all the homes that probably maybe all the people that were in this along the Fellsway live in. And so it is very important, and there was nothing there way back, and I think I mentioned that last time. And I don't want to be upset, but when you're putting words in my mouth, and it's very interesting as an attorney, and I know your skills, and I don't have the legal expertise to cite law. I mean, law in different cases. However, ironically, one of my careers is a mediator for the courts. And so I'm very familiar when people come in and have two sides to things and are trying to reach a decision. And that's not aggrandizement on my part, and it's just trying to people to tell the truth and to move forward in whatever it is. Now, yes, I do feel that a tuxedo place is not the appropriate use of that property. I would not have a problem of it going back to the floral because of the size. And yes, comparing a tuxedo place with, as even Mr. Long said, comparing it with a tuxedo shop and a floral shop are two different things. Mrs. Petrie, or the daughter, Renee Petrie, lived upstairs from there. And so very often if somebody came in, she'd come downstairs. It wasn't like that there was people going in and out as people would be doing, is looking at gowns and tuxes or whatever they're going to be trying on. It becomes a very different atmosphere. It changes the dynamics of that neighborhood. It is a historic neighborhood. Do you know who Hannah Hawks was?
Yes. You want the history?
Yes.
Yeah, she was the granddaughter of Mr. Hawks, who was one of the settlers of Saugus. It's all in the Saugus annual
Okay, so,
reports.
all right,
I learned
so
far
that-
more about Saugus
All
than I
right,
wanted to.
that's good, and I'm glad, and that makes me happy too, because one of the questions that I was going to come up here, other than being very excited, and I'm not crazy as people are seeming to think, but I said last time, I'm passionate about what's happening and to the people in my neighborhood. And one of the things I was going to say, this is Patriots Day was last week. Well, consider this, we're patriots. It was a call to arms, not guns, and thank God, but call to bring some attention to this, because all these people from this neighborhood, and you can call, and I hope that everybody gets up so that they can be on the recording to say, I'm against this. And that's my understanding. And I don't think they knew that, all the other meetings, that they were to say, okay, I'm in opposition. So now, the Patriots, are the historic. Linfels Parkway is on the National Historic Register, and it's going to impact that. The Kasabuski Rink is on the National Historic Register for the war heroes. The Hannah Hawks House is hanging in the Historical Society. So there's a certain legacy of the area that should not be defamed or denigrated in any way. We're not against business per se, because as it was pointed out, there, Target is there. However, Target wasn't there, and there was a field, and I said that last time. However, there were two businessmen that came and met with my mom and dad and said, we want to open the gem store. And I don't know if anybody else remembers the gem store in Saugus. And they said, we'd like to talk to the neighbors about what the needs are. And they sat and they took it all down and they responded. And one of the biggest things was the creation of a buffer zone. And there is still a buffer zone between where Target is now, and actually there was a gem store in the middle of all of that. However, they came and talked to people. And knowing that this is a non-conforming business and it was denied, I would have suggested to you, why didn't you come to the neighbors and maybe talk about it? How do you feel about a tuxedo place being there? Maybe we would have told you what our feelings were, that we absolutely didn't want it. So I'm saying, you're saying that you're really all for the neighbors, and I don't think any of us have ever really met you to any degree. I know all the abutting neighbors. They're all customers of mine, and they were all for me. So I don't know where you live. I apologize, but I know the person right behind me, and I know the 3 houses next to me. The guy with the decorations, Michael
She's in
C.
about it. You voted for her.
Are you next to me? The Laverties? So the guys got taxes from me last year.
You mean the
guys
ones
were
that-
all right behind me, the one that touches my property.
The ones that store all their Christmas lights at Russo.
No, that's Michael C. Michael C. gave me a letter supporting me, yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so I don't
understand
think
that.
people knew that they were storing all their Christmas ornaments at
It
Russo's.
wasn't at mine, it was at Petrie's.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, well, when I bought it, he had his decorations in. That had nothing to do with me.
so anyway, the idea is that we are against this, and we're not against probably, and I don't want to speak for everybody. I'd like, if people want to say something. My idea, I said, this is about freedom and our rights to own our property and defend it. Our own property, just as Mrs. Russo's doing, is trying to defend her property. Well, we're doing that. This is our home, this is our neighborhood, we care about it, we have pride in it. And some of the things that have been said are lies. It's been really advertised out there in social media, and I know that social media, as you said, is not always the appropriate choice, but they've been claiming that it's commercial property. And they're calling the neighbors names, and some of the administrators of the town are doing the same thing, and that is very sad. So that doesn't help us to form relationships and want things to go. However, there has been somebody living there, and Mrs. Rose said it's been that way. So if this is not conforming, and 2 years has passed, and I have not seen anybody there every day that I go by there,
selling flowers, and maybe there was one day that they were making flowers, well, a cleaning lady could go in anywhere, or somebody doing a repair could be in there for the same amount of time. So that doesn't, in my mind, constitute doing business for 2 years. So I'm gonna, even though I had other things to say and talking about pride and being a patriot for our country and our town and all of that, that really isn't the important thing. It's the idea that our feeling is, no, I'm not going to say for our feeling.
thank
I'm
you.
going to say for my feeling, because I
You got
didn't
your
like you
point
speaking.
across.
I was offended when you were speaking for me, so I'm not going to offend
You
anybody
got your
else.
point across.
So,
You did a good job.
so I am going to invite the people that have come and have told me their feelings to please get up and just say either you oppose it, or you can add your own things. And I'm not running the meeting, and I'm sorry
No,
to take
that's
over
okay.
that
You-
position.
you
But
were-
I'm trying to explain
done
it
a good job.
because we feel that it is going to be
I
significantly
understand.
different, and it's going to change the legacy of that area and change the dynamics. Matter of fact, Petrie's, just saying Petrie's in town, and as Mr. Long pointed out, is saying it's a trademark in itself almost. People know. You say, oh, it's up by Petrie's. And so that, people do recognize that. So let's protect what we have here. Let's keep the residential area. I implore this board, really, to maintain what we have in the town. And it's nothing personal against the Russos. It might be against a tuxedo store. That, yes, so I'm gonna say, you said that they didn't have that. It would be any business. No, it wouldn't be any business. That's the character of the store. And it's not the how many high school kids that you said, 16 high school kids? Well, that's not necessarily the case, because it's, a tuxedo store and formal wear is gonna be more than high school kids. So thank you, and again, I'm sorry for being very passionate about this when I'm hearing you quoting my house. And, I'm one house away from your shop. And so, and nobody came to me and said, gee, how do you feel about it? And most of the people along the Fellsway did not get notices because they were not considered abutters. So I am gonna open this to, and I hope that everybody gets up that really has expressed
I
the same
believe Mr.
feelings.
Grabowski wanted to say something.
I would like to say something. Thank you.
He was next, and I'll get to you. Let me get
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Grabowski first.
Arthur Grabowski, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 8. Although this issue isn't in my precinct, it's an issue that I feel very strongly about. And my first comment is, it's about time that boards and commissions in this town represent the neighbors and the residents as opposed to businesses.
Yay.
We've seen too much development, overdevelopment in this town. We've lost open spaces. We've got just a plethora of overdevelopment in this town. And I'm not saying that these people are going to overdevelop, but I mean, when you have a majority or a bunch of residents, it's incumbent upon every board, selectmen, boards, town meeting, everybody to worry about the neighborhoods and the residents. My second thing is, I don't know what it is. Maybe somebody here can answer it. I was told that there's a 21E on file on this property.
Not to my knowledge.
I was told that somebody did a research on the internet and they found a 21E. Do you know what a 21E has something to do with
Absolutely.
hazardous waste?
It's the first that I've heard that. And I would think,
It has something to do with hazardous waste, I'm told. Anybody know? Peter, do you know?
Yes, 21 years of environmental
we
impact.
know what it is. I'm just saying, I've never heard that.
Do you know if it's attached to the property or what the story is on
Well, I
it?
would think the buyer, when
I
they
don't-
purchased.
The buyer would have been told that when the property was sold.
Also, the lady before me mentioned something about when the property was advertised on due diligence. I think that the seller or their agent advised the buyer that they would have to come before the town and get a special permit. And the quote was, "We will help you get that special permit."
I don't know what that,
I'm just trying to give you some history that's out there as to why, and
a
my...
lot of things are out there, Arthur. I don't know what that,
I know what it is.
Yeah, she talked about it.
I know what it is. The realtor said she knows people in town and thinks she can put whatever she wants there. And come to
Well,
find
that's
out that
hearsay.
person was Anthony Cogliano.
Hearsay.
Mr. Chairman, that didn't happen. It's
That-
a figment,
no,
it's a
no.
figment of people's imagination.
That
And
happened.
frankly, it's insulting to Mrs. Russo.
I have
Not
the floor,
problem.
I have the floor here, sir.
But-
Sir, I have the floor, you've had it long enough, okay? I think, you have to defer to the residents, although sometimes the residents get a little heated. You have to defer to the people that have the podium. Second of all, or third of all, which to me is more important, is I believe that your advertisement and your jurisdiction in this issue is flawed. I believe that your advertisement should read, a special permit needs to be applied for. There is no special permit that goes with the property. They're not looking to get a special permit, which is what they need to operate. They're just looking to appeal the
Building department.
the building department. But that's a tangential issue. The fact is, there is no special permit that goes with this property. And they need a special permit to operate. So when and how are they gonna get a special permit? And does that come through you guys, or does it come somewhere else? And I believe that the prior owner, Petrie's Florist, there was some reference, I believe they had a special permit also that went along with the property. I would assume the special permit must expire when the business leaves the area.
Again, I'm dealing with the questions in front of us.
Goes with the land forever, unless it's abandoned.
That's an S2 permit, that's not a special permit. I think they're two separate things. So basically, that's my issue, and the other issue is your area, and I'm not trying to be critical, I think,
No.
as everybody here knows.
This is informal, sir.
Your
You can bring
area,
up any-
you have really limited input on zoning. Zoning, as everybody here knows that's served on town meeting, is an issue that's reserved for town meeting. So if there's an issue with zoning, then the petitioner should come through the town meeting process to request a zoning change. I don't think the Board of Appeals should have the ability to change the zoning, because
We don't.
that's,
We have a right to, the building department, their decision is being appealed. Got nothing to do with.
but
special permit. That's what's in front of us.
it involves zoning. And zoning is the only purview of the town meeting.
Right, and we're not
And if you
changing
open this
zoning.
up to deal with zoning, then you open up a big can of worms, because
We're
everybody,
not opening that one, we're just stating we're gonna deal with the building commissioner and inspector's decision to deny this. That's what our question, that's
So,
the question in front of us.
a procedural question would be, if you approve their request, what are they allowed to do if you approve their request?
If we overturn the building inspector's
Yes.
decision,
Yes.
well, first, you're speculating what we're gonna do when we're not even.
I'm just asking what would happen if you did that.
Then the building inspector's decision would be done, and they'd be able to do what they wanna do.
Pending appeal of anybody that wanted to appeal your decision?
Yes.
Okay. And I would hope that you would open it up. I don't think there's a lot of people that really, I don't want to go into a long tirade. I think there are a lot of people here that want to be registered and have their names and
And
positions.
no, and one thing was about not allowing people to speak, I was emphatic last meeting that everyone who wanted to speak had the right to speak. And I think people have to agree with me that I said that. If you want to say something, there's the podium. I didn't hinder anyone from speaking.
No, I'm not saying that.
I know you know, I'm just
I
letting you know.
just say I would hope that there's
I'm
other
just-
people here that
I'm
would.
just emphasizing that I said, I don't care how long this meeting goes on. Everybody who wants to stress and put an opinion out there can put an opinion out there, because it's I believe it's required, because I think this is gonna end up in a courtroom, and that's why I wanna get everything down on paper. I wanna get all the testimony on all sides down on paper, because it's gonna end up in a courtroom. I really believe that. I think we're naive if we don't think that this, no matter which way it goes, the other side will be appealing. I'd be in shock if they didn't. So I'm trying to get everything out there, and everybody who wants here, hopefully it'll be a couple minutes, there'll be, who have something to say will have an opportunity to say it.
Yeah, I
I'm not
believe-
stifling anyone.
Yeah, I mean, a lot
I
of
don't
people
have
should
all
be
the
able to be
answers.
recorded
That's
one
why-
way or the other.
Yeah, I don't have all the answers, that's why sometimes we say, this meeting is informal, because I don't have all the answers. And I appreciate when people throw things at us that, you know, I don't wanna say stumping us, but you ask good questions.
I'd like to
Don't
see some,
necessarily have the
I'd like to
question
see some
after the
explanation
thing.
on this
Don't
special
necessarily
permit
always have the
situation.
question,
Yeah, okay, thank
the
you.
answer. Thank you.
I just wanted to say what he said about me. Can I finish what I was saying?
Sure.
Okay. That conversation did happen. He says it doesn't. If need be, if it does go to court, someone can check my phone records. I specifically, it happened, you said she signed an affidavit, I will sign an affidavit. I had the conversation, that's what was said, and it led to Mr. Cogliano. That's the truth.
Okay.
And the smell of corruption is not too cool here. No, it's what happens.
It's opinions, I don't think it's, I wouldn't call it corruption, I really wouldn't.
All right, well, no,
It's corruption.
maybe I used the wrong word.
I don't, I'm certainly not against the neighborhood there.
Can we talk about the bylaws? I have a question about the bylaws.
Sure.
Are we following them? Or are they trumped by something?
And what bylaw are you talking about?
They are very specific. I mean, the first bylaw that says the purpose of the bylaws, to protect the neighbors. Section 2.2 says that this should not be further non-conforming.
Right, and you did point that out, and that was read into the record last meeting.
Oh, okay, so that's being
I remember
taken
you,
into
I
consideration.
thought that was a good point.
Okay,
If you could stand at the podium,
okay.
he's just saying that he can't hear you. But I do remember that point that you made, and I thought it was a good one, to be honest with you.
I took the bylaws one by one.
No, I thought that was a good one. I do
Okay.
remember hearing that. I think I repeated it. I think you asked me to repeat it, so I know it got into the record.
The purpose of the bylaws they were enacted for the following
Yeah.
purposes: to lessen congestion in the streets, to conserve health, to secure safety from fire, flood, panic, in the interest of the present and future inhabitants of the town of Saugus.
No, I remember you-
the inhabitants. No, I did not say this.
Well, you
We
said
are the
the
inhabitants.
good,
We
that
are the
line
neighbors.
about not being more detrimental.
Right, right.
I do remember that specifically.
Existing buildings and land, section 2.3, I know you don't want me to read it, I'm trying to be quick. The purpose of the non-conforming use was for a floral business. A tuxedo shop is a substantially different purpose. Or tuxedo shop clothing sales, whatever, it's gonna be clothing sales. Section 6.6, screening and buffers. My answer to that is, is no buffer zone. This property is located right on Linfield's Parkway with very little setback and no buffer zone. That's in our bylaws. Section 9.1, nonconformity by initial enactment or amendment. This article speaks for itself. The board is charged with the protection, preservation, and promotion of the benefits of the conforming use, which is residential. The conforming use, which is residential. The bylaws state that the perpetuity of a non-conforming use should be discouraged. We are not only talking about a non-conforming use, but a substantially different non-conforming use. Section 9.2 is about extension and alteration. And just part of that I highlighted was, any non-conforming structure or portion thereof that has come into conformity shall not again become non-conforming. It has been residential, so it should not become non-conforming again. Section 9.5 is abandonment, which we spoke about. Again, the non-conforming use has been abandoned for over 2 years. I mean, you know, I can make little
boutonnieres in my mother's kitchen? Am I running a business? I mean, that does not, that's lame, I'm sorry. We believe that our property values will decline. There will be environmental issues. And this is if it does not go back to residential. The property is situated over a brook, and our neighborhood is already known for its flooding issues, which have not been remediated. GCR is working on it. We'll see what happens. Traffic lights, signage, and noise will all be issues, and we've seen a plot plan indicating a change to the back of the parking area, which is not tenable due to said flooding issue. So that's just some of the bylaws that I think should rule.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ma'am, I know you wanted to speak. I appreciate your patience.
My name is Carol Wagner. I've lived at 352 Linfield Parkway since 1952, and my property is across the street from the proposed retail shop.
And I even saw your father's name on previous
Thank you.
petitions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Grabowski. The comments that Mr. Grabowski made are very much similar to the ones that I wish to address tonight. And Candace, the bylaws are also issues that I wanted to address. But I want to speak from my heart, and I want to talk just a little bit about my concerns with the proposed retail shop that I know that a lot of my concerns might not be your concerns. This might be something to address by another board. But I want you to be farsighted and think about the problems that we might ensue if this issue is resolved in their favor. Number one, concerning the traffic pattern. We're hoping the business, if they do receive this permission, would be successful. And with the success, you always want to increase your business. Perhaps there will be more customers. Perhaps there will be more vans coming and going with tuxedos. Perhaps they will want to have limousines. We can't predict that. That might happen. And once they get the permit, they would have that. They would have that
have to allow
ability.
them to have limousines.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
So the selectmen would have to allow that.
Okay, I'm saying that these
So
are my
it's not
concerns
on
that
the
perhaps
table
are not,
right now, yeah.
are not your concerns. I'm also thinking that, do they have the space in the front to park these vehicles? If not, would they have to park off the property? Would they then want a lot in the back? So that is a concern as to the vehicle situation. My concern is also the structure. If your business is successful, wouldn't you want to change that structure so you could house more tuxedos? Would there be cleaning? Would you be taking them in and out? You talk about a florist. Would you want to have a greenhouse? Would that be a florist? Or would you be trucking in boutonnieres and bouquets? Is that considered a florist if you truck in those items? That would be a concern to me too. Originally, I remember the Petrie's Florist was one little shed with 5 little tables. And they sold geraniums that they grew in the greenhouse in the back. Now, would you need a greenhouse to be a florist? Or again, I'm stating, would trucking in a boutonniere and a bouquet
I don't think there'll
be
be any
considered a
growing there.
florist?
Just- It would be secondhand. There wouldn't be any growing going on.
All of a sudden, this little shed now has morphed into something a lot bigger. Sometimes it's been used, sometimes it hasn't. Now it looks like it's forming into a residence. Why can't we have a residential piece of property in a residential neighborhood? Why do we have to have a retail business in a residential neighborhood? My third problem, my third concern is the brook. Any change, any debris, anything that happens with that brook may change the water table. And for those of us that live in that area who are constantly pumping out our cellars, that would create quite a problem. So those are just my personal concerns, and I'm hoping that, as I said, you would be farsighted enough to think in terms of those concerns of the neighbors in our neighborhood before you grant their permission. So it is my hope that you would consider a no vote
All right, thank you.
in terms of your petition. Thank you very much.
Ms. Barone?
I actually just have a question. The last meeting, we started with an opinion from town council, reviewing this petition, citing insufficient evidence to approve and recommending denying. We closed the meeting saying we're gonna, send this back to him to review the evidence that was presented by the applicant and her attorney. Do we have a new opinion? That was why this got.
Well, Mr. Vaswali went on vacation.
Okay.
He got back Monday.
Okay.
Basically, and I know he spoke with Mr. Turco also, but basically his opinion didn't really change. He said it was up to this board to make the decision based upon the evidence that Mr. Turco presented to us.
Okay. So his recommendation is still to deny.
I don't
And he
think,
just-
I would say his recommendation,
Because his recommendation was to deny, so that hasn't changed. Okay. I was just
I don't think that's what happened.
wondering.
He said 2 hearings ago, we didn't have enough evidence to make a decision.
Right. Right. This is from before the last one.
Subsequently, Mr. Turco
You sent it
presented
back.
some evidence.
Right. So I was just wondering if he had updated his opinion.
He did not.
He did,
Okay.
apparently he didn't make any further
He didn't,
recommendation
okay.
to deny or otherwise.
it was just basically, it's still up to the board.
Okay.
Is there anyone else in the audience?
No, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Hi, Al Jansky from Forest Street,
What number, Forrest?
164. I have lived there for roughly 30 years now, not anywhere near as long as some of these other people.
Okay.
But, and I won't talk as long as some of them. But in the 30 years when it was a florist shop, and even when it wasn't, there's only been, at the most, a couple of cars in that parking lot at any given time. I don't care if you call it 60 hours a week or non-seasonal or what have you. I know that there's weddings all year round, there's deaths all year round, there's proms and all kinds of things where that's going to draw more traffic there than ever has been with Petrie's Florist. You know from the prior documents that I saw secondhand that the parking is good for a couple of cars. That place had never had a big booming business. I don't care what the money was. It's never been a busy place. And I think that anything that increases the traffic is going to be far more detrimental to the neighborhood than good. And that's all basically I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience? Please, I don't want anyone to claim that they didn't get a chance to. Yes, Mr. McQueen.
Randy McQueen, 180 Forest Street, and the area has changed so much lately with Target and the traffic. This morning, you could not get out of Forest Street onto the Fellsway at 8 o'clock in the morning. It was backed up from Main Street. And at 9 o'clock, it was backed up to Donna Road. The traffic is appalling, appalling. I'm just nervous that it's going to increase the traffic. I've also been told by a representative from the DCR that if there's any changes to the parking there, egress, leaving or whatever, that's going to have to go to a mediation or mitigation with the DCR. So if any changes to parking are going to occur with that property, there's going to have to be a further thing with contact with DCR. Also, DCR is doing a traffic study, a drainage study on Forest Street, on the Fellsway. We don't even know if Forest Street is a town road or a state road.
You're saying?
I've heard that for 50 years we've been told that that's a state road
You're talking
going up.
like Forest Street from the Fellsway going up to Breakout.
That was a farm road up to the top. Okay, but what is it now? DCR plows it, but that doesn't mean that it's a town.
Fellsway to the Breakout entrance.
Yes.
Is that the town
Okay,
road?
so as you know, there's two
Yeah,
separate,
I'm
yeah, you
familiar.
know. Okay, so my question is, who can tell us if it's a town road or a state road? obviously, the Fellsway is a state road. I've been told recently, when they tied in the skating rink, that glorious skating rink 3.5 years ago, when they put all that money into it and reopened it, and they tied into the Saugus water line on Forest Street at the turnaround, I was told that coming down from Breakheart is a town road with no speed bumps when cars drive 40 to 50 miles an hour all day long. It's a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. I understand 15 is really hard, but, and I give people to 25, maybe 28, but if they're going 35, 40, 50, 60, I'm out there risking my life telling them to slow down. You know, we need speed bumps, 3 or 4 on each side. It's crazy, but I'm just a little nervous that if
We do have, Mr. Rossetti's on Friends of Breakheart and everything else. Do you have any knowledge to that, who owns that Roseway?
I
Who do you
believe
think it
going
is?
from the Fellsway to Breakheart is state, coming the other
All
way
right, so
is
he's
town.
confirming.
Okay, all right, that's what I was
He
told
definitely-
about it,
He
you know.
believes he can't
Okay.
confirm it, really.
But I never got any confirmation on it. Supposedly, that's part of the study that they're doing right now.
Houses are on one side, that's the town.
Okay, all right,
But the
so,
side the house is on is the town?
yeah, that's what he's saying, on coming down. It makes sense. It does make sense,
So
you know?
you'd be on a town road, but on the other side, the
Yeah,
hockey rink is
and
on
I
the
understand.
state road.
Yeah, and I understand that DCR plows the town
They do,
road
though.
because they're already coming up, and you know it's
Gotta
a
come back
give and
and
take, I'm sure. But so how do I mean? That's a major problem. There's now someone living in between Target and Forest Street in the pucker brush. There's a couple in there, an older couple that hasn't been. There's a camper in there today that's been in and out. There was a camper there 3 months ago. I had to go through crazy stuff to get that moved. And then you know what they did? They moved it to Wendy's, 2,000 feet away. I had to go through all the whole thing again with Mr. Nicoli, who is the landowner. And
So
then
they just moved the encampment behind Wendy's?
I'm sorry.
They moved the encampment behind Wendy's?
Just a camper. It was a fifth wheel camper
Oh,
brought
okay.
in by it had no plates on it, unplated, and it's so hard to get.
Behind the old Five Guys now?
What's that?
Campus behind old Five Guys now.
No, Wendy's.
It's been there 5 months. That's a fifth wheel camper at the parking lot behind Buffalo Wild Wings and Macy's coming down from Stop and Shop parking lot. All right, we're digressing here, but sorry, I just had it. I knew I was going to do that. But if it gets changed, so what if it doesn't work out for them, and then they sell in a few years, and then the new owners come and want to change it again. Now it's a convenience store. Then it sounds to me like if it's a convenience store, they're going to be allowed to sell beer and wine 6 months later. So I don't. I'm against it, and hopefully you understand how I. Thank you,
Mrs. Meredith? Be nice to me.
It is increasingly more difficult every day. Town meeting member Jeannie Meredith, Precinct 2. I just want to say that, for the record, that I strongly oppose this, and I stand with the residents, as I wish more town meeting members would stand up for our neighborhoods. However, with that being said, I think that if you did approve this, you will be opening Pandora's box for businesses to be popping up. There's several other locations that have been florist shops. What's to stop all of those locations from coming forward and wanting to put a business? Has nothing to do, it's not personal for me at all. I don't know the Russos, and I have nothing against tuck shops. I just think that, it's a zoning issue. I don't think it belongs here. I think if they were gonna rezone it and take it from residential to commercial, that it should follow the proper channels,
I
which should
agree
go
with you,
through
not a zoning
planning
issue.
board and town meeting and let them vote it there. I don't think this should be political at all, and sometimes it tends to get that way. But I do want to say I agree with previous speakers, Grabowski, Mr. Serino, and Mr. Bob Long, who is a wealth of knowledge, often way too long-winded, but still a wealth of knowledge. And that being said,
Still
that's
here?
it. Thank you.
You're only saying that because you left, right? So,
He didn't leave, he's here.
Sorry.
And there's nothing wrong with his hearing.
Sure, Mr. Volker.
Hi, Carl Volker, 364 Linfells Parkway. I know the board knows me. I've been up here passionately before. I'm not going to repeat everything everybody said. I agree with it. I appreciate all the town meeting members coming up here. I'm concerned about oversight, of this place, and I think, sure, if a business goes in there and there's stuff that we don't like, we can go to the town, we can go to the cops. I'd really rather not get into that. I think, as I read the bylaws, I'm not going to school anybody on it. It feels like they're there for the residents, and basically, that this should go back to residential. There's somebody living there now, we know that it can happen. I don't understand. I get why they bought the building. It makes sense. It's so expensive to go up on Route 1. That shouldn't be a residence problem. That should be a town problem to help fix that and help these commercial businesses to come up with all these open properties on there. It shouldn't be that I can't afford that, so I'm going to jam myself into residential. I know the Peachtree's Florist is there. I'm not going to deny that. I mean, if a florist shop has to go back in there, so be it. But I think the bylaws clearly are there to protect the residents, and hopefully the board respectfully can look at that and take it in. I mean, clearly there's a lot of support for it. It's nothing against the owners of the Russo Tuck Shop. Quite frankly, they knew what they were getting into. Shouldn't be a surprise, and it's become a battle. This is the third time we've been here, and I would hope that the board would, the bylaws are there to protect the town and the residents. That's all we're looking for. We're not looking to be pains in the butts. We don't fight everything like has been said on social media by certain people. We come up and we come out when there's a problem and we're trying to solve it for the city. I'm not looking to stop business, but it's not my fault that it's so expensive to go on Route 1. I mean, I see businesses opening there. I think the fried chicken place or whatever, that people can do it. But the residents shouldn't have to suffer for that. That's a residential area. Why not keep it residential? There's plenty of places in Saugus. So I hope you respectfully ask that you take a look at that, and thank you for everybody that's supporting this.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. Your name and address, please.
My name is Charles Leo, 4 Laureen Road.
Okay.
And I spoke briefly last time, and I'll speak briefly again. I asked the question if it was residential because I've only been in Saugus for 7 years, and I lived in Melrose for 50 years. And it is residential, and I understand that the property was bought with the understanding that it had to conform. If it's residential, I said last time, it's a no-brainer. It's residential, put a house there if they don't want a flower shop. Also, I want the board to consider, any of you members live close to where the property you were talking about? Anyone live close to it?
I'm very familiar.
No, I'm not asking that. Do you live close by?
I grew up close by.
Okay, so you understand why all these people are here opposing?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to vote. Why? Can the board make a decision tonight?
I hope to make some type of decision.
Yeah, I think it should be voted, of course, with integrity and take into consideration that you are living next door to Mrs. Kitty. Okay? Living next door, I don't know who I think you're the owner of the home. I'm sorry, you're on the home right in the Fellsway.
Yeah, right.
I don't think there's any businesses. I'm sure there's got to be a sign eventually put up there if it's a tuxedo shop. I don't know any businesses that are on the Fellsway going all the way into Melrose.
Sucks.
That's right on the Fellsway.
Sucks.
Sucks, but they don't face right on the Fellsway. They're facing, their property is not staring at you. You got to pull in and.
There used to be an Exxon station.
Well, whatever. So I oppose it, and I wish the board would consider living next door to Miss Kitty, okay? Or any one of the neighbors that abut that property, and thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Mrs. Panetta trying to sneak in? Yeah, you're next.
Mark Spinelli, 7 East Denver Street, Saugus. I grew up on Donner Road.
Okay.
When I moved from Saugus, I moved to Chelsea on Garfield Avenue. I was a neighbor of Russo's Tux. I never saw traffic in front of Russo's Tux like you think it's gonna happen. I mean, I don't oppose them business. I know everybody's gonna hate me. I'm your neighbor. I used to be a neighbor. I still have a family trust on Dorner Road. I don't know the Russos personally, but I see I agree with yours changing it from residential to your business. If you ever sold it and it went to like a Dunkin' Donuts, I oppose that completely.
Me too.
But I support you, and I would hope that you would keep the property up.
Better than a
Otherwise, it's
residence.
going to end up like Kyle is on Route 1.
Yeah, no, that's
And
exactly it.
That I support you in that respect. I want to see the place well cared for and get along with your neighbors.
Thank you, I appreciate that. That's what we're trying to do. We're not looking to grow.
Thank you.
We're big.
Mrs. Spinella, where'd she go?
Come back to Donna Road someday.
She stepped out for a minute.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak?
I just want to say I'm very confused.
Okay, well, do you want to come up
I
and,
live behind them.
where do you live, ma'am?
100 Forest Street.
Okay, and what's your name?
Graham.
Okay,
I live behind them. And I'm going to say I'm very confused by all this. I haven't been bothered by, the drums haven't bothered me. It doesn't bother me at all. I haven't seen a lot of stuff going on. I don't want to see the building deteriorate if it just stays there. But I'm not going to say whether I oppose it or I support it because I'm so confused. I didn't, I'd rather hear a little more.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Mr. McQueen,
Randy
okay.
McQueen again. I'm a little surprised that the town council, who was supposed to evaluate this, didn't seem to do anything in the last month, possibly 2 months.
Well, no, he gave an opinion.
Okay.
He gave us an opinion,
And then it was,
and
it
he
was,
didn't change it.
he didn't change it. Well, okay, all right. Well, he had 30
Basically,
days,
that's
and they
basically
talked
what-
for a few minutes today. They talked this afternoon or something.
I know.
They had 30 days.
Well, he was out of the country.
That's just, I think that's unacceptable. Thank you.
Mr. Travers, can I just ask, he had stated he wanted evidence, and you say that Mr. Turco brought evidence tonight. Can you just clarify what that evidence was that shows that it wasn't
This
an
package,
amendment?
and I can actually,
Are there any tax returns or any?
there's no
receipts?
tax returns and stuff, there's
Just
some
like
invoices
tags
and things and permits and such.
Could I ask a question?
But, yeah, we're not dealing with the 2-year things. We're dealing simply with, and I keep on saying this, the building department's decision to say that it had to remain a floral shop. That's the decision that we're gonna make tonight. Not whether or not it's going beyond the 2 years. We're not there yet. Yes, sir.
So if Mr. Vasapoli was out of the country, did he look at all that stuff today, and that's how he
Yeah,
made
can he
his
vouch for
ruling?
that
I guess
stuff?
I'm confused about that. I know he talked with counsel over there, but if that's a pretty good document, if he only had 30 minutes to look at that, that's a pretty good read. I'm just curious.
Well, he stated it wasn't enough to change his opinion, but maybe Mr. Turco.
So his opinion hasn't changed, so what he said in the first meeting is stays
Yes.
the same? Okay. Just-
And that was?
Mr. Vasapoli's decision, which I got at the meeting last time, talk about 30 minutes to review. I got it at the meeting. Mr. Rossetti was kind enough to hand it to me so I could skim through it and try to address it on the fly. And then fortunately, members of the board wanted to have time to discuss it, and so they delayed it. But Mr. Vasapoli, I'm not going to put words in his mouth. He was away on vacation. We had no substantive discussion about this issue because ultimately, as he said in his opinion, it is up to, what he said was, the information I submitted with the original petition in his mind was not sufficient, but that the board would weigh evidence that's put before it. And so at the last meeting, I put evidence before you, and today I put evidence before you, formalizing what I had verbally said last time, including an affidavit. That is now evidence before you. Mr. Vasapoli's opinion was, it's not his job under Chapter 48 to tell you what to do. It's his job, it's your job as a board members to hear the evidence, look at the legal standard, and then apply the legal standard to the facts that are before you. That's just, so frankly, I think it would be, in some way, I would love for Mr. Vassapoli to have given you an opinion today telling you don't do this, because it would have made a job in court easier had I lost.
Right.
And so, because I think it would be so highly inappropriate to do. So, he didn't change his opinion was, Turco's going to present more evidence on behalf of his client. We believe we've done that. I think I've done it successfully, but ultimately you guys will have to independently make your judgments. Some of you have been doing this for decades, and you know what that is. If I could briefly address sort of a couple of comments that were made, and then because I know others are waiting. First, somebody raised the question about why weren't the 50s decisions recorded. After that question was raised, I went back to my title examiner and said, go back to 1900 for me, see if there's anything recorded. He talked to the Registry of Deeds, said they weren't required to be recorded. Special permits weren't required to be recorded until 1976 when the legislature amended the law. So you won't find recorded zoning board decisions prior to that time. That's why the ones in the 1950s were not recorded, but the one in the 80s and the two in the 90s were recorded, because it's required by law now that they be recorded ever since 1976, the change in the general law. I mentioned this early, but I think it's worth quoting. Quote, and this is from the Almeida case I cited, although increased traffic is a legitimate consideration, the judge noted traffic concerns here, quote, lie in the nature of the road, not the use of the store. Use of this road has increased in connection to population growth in the surrounding area. Furthermore, the topography of the road lends itself to speeding drivers. These factors are present regardless of whether or not the convenience store sells beer and wine. Regardless of whether or not there's a florist there, regardless of whether or not there's a tuck shop, all of those problems that you heard about buffer zones and about the brook, if you voted against us tonight and we said, heck it, we're going to make this into a single-family home, we're not going to do anything else, and that property being on a brook doesn't change, because you can't change it. If you deny the use, it doesn't remove the property. That's protected. And so, so a lot of the concerns, again, very legitimate concerns. I'm involved with my local community. I hear when people come up. But your board members that have an independent duty outside of politics to make independent judgments based on the facts and the evidence before you. And again, I go to what is the standard? The board makes an additional finding that such change shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use to the neighborhood. That's the standard. Can you honestly look at, ask yourself, can a tuck shop with 20 hours a week less of use as proposed, can that possibly be substantially more detrimental than a floral shop? And other than fears of the unknown, and the one thing I will acknowledge, we dropped the ball on, in that my client, when she came to me, we never anticipated that this would be a big brouhaha in the neighborhood, because we thought it was so, frankly, I didn't even think we need to come before the zoning board. I said that in my initial petition. I said retail is retail is retail, and so we shouldn't even have to come. But town council disagreed. We were told to go to the select board, then we were told to come here. And so had we known it was going to be like this, we certainly would have done community meetings. A lot of communities I do some of this work in, they actually, the town bylaws, the city bylaws require you to have community meetings before you can get. Maybe that's something that the town meeting can change in the zoning, is to say, if you're going to go for one of these, you have to have a community meeting first. Maybe that'll help resolve some of these, or at least give an opportunity to address some of these and try to clear away the mystery. So I thank you for your time. You've been more than gracious, and you've given far more, and I apologize to those that were, when we got taken out of order, that you've been here for so long.
Is Mrs. Spinella there?
Sorry. I keep hitting you, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Deborah Panetta. I live at 1 Bellevue Street. I want to thank the board, as well as all the neighbors, for coming out tonight. I know that this is a hard decision for you. There's a lot of things to take into consideration. Oh, no one's ever said that I haven't spoken loud enough. That's a first for me. The only thing that I wanted to thank all the neighbors for coming out, and I wanted to thank the ZBA, because I know that you've been very patient, you've been listening to everybody, and I appreciate you giving everybody the chance to speak this evening. And you could hear that there's a lot of passionate cries, there's a lot of concerns, but I think that for me, and I called the town council as well, just trying to understand what town council said. The building inspector said no, which is the reason why it's before you this evening. And then town council also, he wrote his opinion. I called him up, as well as I'm sure a lot of other folks called him up, and you spoke to him too, Mr. Chair. And he just said to me, if the place was abandoned for the 2 years, it was a non-conforming use, they would have to prove and convince this board that they were indeed in business for those 2 years. So I think that's really where it comes down. It's really a zoning decision, which is up to you folks this evening on what you plan to do. So you've heard all of the pro, for, and against, and then and all of the neighbors' concerns. And again, I do appreciate all of your time this evening and listening to each one of the people that have come out to speak tonight. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Just comment, I know that somebody dropped off some files and a statement at the office today and wanted it read into the record.
I'm going to address that. I haven't gotten to, there's a couple of letters. I haven't gotten to that yet. Mr. Lund?
Bob Long, 26 Bennett Avenue. One thing you've asked for is town council's opinion. Now, what I have here is town council's opinion of March 25th. And he has already advised you, unless he has been presented with something different, he is advising you to deny the petitioner's application. For reasons listed below, my legal opinion is that the petitioner has not provided sufficient evidence to the board to conclude that the flower shop use for the property is a lawful pre-existing non-conforming use of land. Moreover, the petitioner has not provided sufficient evidence to the board to conclude that the use of the property as a flower shop, regardless of its legal status, has not been abandoned. Therefore, without further evidence from the petitioner on both of these points, I recommend that the board deny the petitioner's application. Now, on the back
We
page...
did read that into record last night. We read that into the record.
I see, I
last
understand
meeting.
that, but the evening is getting rather long
I understand.
on this. So, I mean, it seems to me your problems still come down to the same thing they were when you started the, opened up
But
this
I-
hearing here. Therefore, without further evidence from the petitioner, I recommend that the board deny the petitioner's application. However, in the event that the petitioner provides further information as outlined above, I'll be happy to supplement my opinion letter regarding the legal standard application to change from one non-conforming use to another, the tuxedo shop. Now, like you, as a citizen, I've listened to an awful lot tonight. And the bottom line is you got a legal opinion from town council. Where are you gonna go with it?
I don't disagree with you.
Thank you.
Sure you drop some papers.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to say anything? Are any board members like to make some
Yes,
comments?
I just want to say a few words.
Yes, Mr. Chaufield.
Excuse my alarm going off, it's a medical alarm, keeps on going, I can't shut it off. Paul Trunfield, 15 Donna Road, and I became aware through Jackie and others about the situation with the florist shop, and we had a petition going to inform people in the area. I focused on those people on Forest Street directly abutting the property behind the florist shop, and all of them except two were not aware of it, but everyone was aware of it. And I went around a second time to inform them about the meeting tonight so that they could come, and none of them expressed a desire to be here. They didn't want to speak up, they were kind of intimidated, and they didn't want to cause any problem, that one of them said. One gentleman had broke his leg, he couldn't come. But I was surprised at that the abutters that directly behind
wouldn't at least come to the meeting. But anyway, that was the case. So there are others that are on here tonight that certainly would have maybe liked to have been here, and if they didn't feel ashamed to come and speak against it, and they were all against it, that was the way it was. So I think we would have had more opposition tonight had those people come. They were direct abutters to the property in the back. And some of them did have young kids, too. One of them especially had young children in the house. So that's all I want to say. I am definitely opposed to it also.
Okay, anyone else? I did have this submitted. It came in roughly at about, I have it was dropped off tonight after 4 o'clock, and I did not have a chance to review it or submit it to the rest of the board. It was from Matt Solig, I might pronounce his name wrong, Matthew Sognoli. Does he happen to be here? No, it's almost a legal brief. It's very long, and, you know, it's against the project, and it points out a lot of information. I will give it to the clerk, and she will put it into the record. But it is definitely, you know, it's another person against it. I also have a letter from Selectman Cogliano that he asked me to read. Dear Chairman Travis and members of the ZBA, I cannot be in attendance tonight, but would like to voice my opinion for the granting of a tuxedo shop at the old Petrie Florist building. In my opinion, this will not be detrimental to the existing neighborhood, and to be quite honest, it should have much less impact than the florist that will be open less. This is one of those issues where some neighbors are against it, but could face something much more significantly detrimental to the area if this does not pass. Having several friends and relatives in the area, including some of the abutting properties, I'd hate to see some of the alternatives that could be placed there. I have known Maria Russo for over 30 years. She was a friend and a fine, successful businesswoman. Please record me in favor of it. Anthony W. Cogliano Sr., 27 Sereno Way. Again, are there any more comments? Anything from the board?
Could we hear that other letter that should be read from that other person that you dropped it off to?
We'll be here till tomorrow after. He dropped it off at 4 o'clock, and it's 30 pages.
Didn't he, isn't there?
And I'm stating
I don't know him,
There's nothing in here that-
dropping it off because he couldn't do it, so I just asked.
Yeah, but he
him.
dropped it off after 4
Is there
tonight,
a cover letter?
after this has been processed for, like, it just says that there's evidence here, I'm unable to attend, and I'm against it, basically. And then he's got pictures, a marketing, he's a broker, it's a marketing analysis.
It's probably the listing that it was when the property was.
Yeah, it's just like, and it's not that I'm
It would be evidence to how the property was obtained and what they knew.
yeah, it's just the fact that it could come in after 4 o'clock, and it is, well, at least 20 pages. And if you want, you know, I can read just a little bit of the introduction. Good evening, members of the zoning board. I'd like to address the proposed tuxedo shop at 409 Linfeld Parkway. The evidence demonstrates that the prior flower shop use of the property has likely been abandoned, and this application represents an attempt to bypass proper zoning procedure. And then it goes on to, basically, it's like a legal brief. It goes into things.
So he's saying he has proof there that it was abandoned in some manner with the picture?
Yeah, nothing that we haven't heard here tonight. He just said, I wish it was presented earlier enough for me to, yes, Mr. Grossi.
My question is, as members of the board, it's incumbent to have all the evidence in front of you. Have all the members of the board had access to that?
Nope, because it was presented at 4 o'clock this afternoon after this has been in process for 3 months. I came in and I found it here tonight. He had 3 months to get it to us. And he came in at 4 o'clock today. Any member wants to take a look at it, but basically, I really summarized it. If anyone would like to look at it, it says that he's against, nothing that we haven't heard here, him being against it.
But since the attorney for has presented you evidence that every member has gotten, shouldn't somebody that's presented you evidence against also
As long as they're reasonable on the time period in which they do that. So if somebody wants to base an appeal to our decision based upon that all the board members didn't see that, you're open to do that. But there's nothing in here that we haven't heard several times over. If you'd like to take a look at it and review it, Stephanie, a little bit. And if Mr. Romano and Mr. Rossetti are attorneys in their day jobs, and they can take a look. I don't think there's anything in there. And there's some things that I don't think are fear in there that I saw. I don't think it was malicious intention upon this person, about anybody's part. It's business. But it does, just comes to a point that, somebody could bring in 30 pages at this meeting. Would we wait to have those 30 pages reviewed by all members? You can only go do so much, basically, and it's repetitious to what's been said. We'll give Stephanie a moment just to review and think if she sees anything really pertinent. And I do want to say, as they're looking that over, that I've talked to various board members, and we're all pretty much torn on this, which way to go. It's a very difficult decision. And that's why I'm being emphatic when I said I want to get as much, everyone to have to say what they have to say, because I just think there's an outstanding chance that it's going to end up, our decision's not going to be final. A final decision's going to be made by some judge somewhere. I'm sure. That's what's going to happen. So I'm trying to give everyone the opportunity to speak.
Does the board have a position on this?
We haven't voted yet, sir.
Why haven't you voted?
We're waiting because Mr. Gaboski asked for a review of this late information. I'm just taking a few minutes to look that over. I'm not coming up with anything that we haven't heard. You can look at it also, when you want to look at it.
Does any board want to speak on the issue today?
If you'd like to speak, sir, you can have some.
I'm talking about the board members. Any of them want to speak on this issue?
I've given the opportunity to speak.
Hey, what?
I've asked if anybody wants
So
to.
the board is refusing to talk on this issue?
No, they've had questions, they'll speak. Mr. Riley loves to talk. He's got something to say all the time. That's why he's here, because he likes to talk. He argues with me, that's why I put him on the board. Mr. Riley, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. We heard from a lot of members of the public, it's pretty clear opinions of the public that they're generally against this. If we go back to the part of the history of this, this was originally granted, at least in part, due to a hardship of the original grantor, Mr. Petrie. It's been pointed out that the bylaws, while a special permit does run forever, that's why they're so hard to get, that the bylaws do discourage perpetuity. To me, those things kind of conflict. Special permits forever, but on the other hand, we discourage perpetuity. That to me means a case just like this, where it was granted for purpose A, and there's a petition now for purpose B. A little different, a lot different is in the eye of the beholder. I can think of lots of reasons to vote yes on this. I can think of lots of reasons to vote no on it. Two things. that are sort of stuck in my head. I agree with the Chairman Travers 100%. I don't think that this board will make the final decision on this permit. I think it's gonna end up in court. When we look at what's been presented in terms of evidence or opinion to support the notion that this is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, not for me to say it is or it isn't, but it's subjective. It's that there's more traffic, maybe, maybe not. It's hard to say it's a slam dunk that there'll be more traffic. There might be a little more, but there's not 20, 30 cars at a tuck shop unless it's, you know, the night before the prom or something. But you can say the same thing about a flower shop. On Valentine's Day, there's 30 cars there. So if you take those few days out of it, generally speaking, the difference, in my own personal opinion, it would be negligible in terms of traffic. You can argue about noise, the behavior of who occupies the building. All of those things are, I'm not saying they're real or not real, but they're subjective. If we look at what becomes if this board votes no, let me back up for a second. If this board were to vote yes, then the board can put conditions on it. Conditions about parking, hours, access, all sorts of things that we can put conditions on, like we do on lots of other petitions that come to us. If we vote no, there's no conditions here. It's very likely gonna go to court, and it's gonna be an all or nothing decision based upon exactly what the applicant asked for, which means you don't get any conditions at all. So you're probably gonna, it's either we say yes tonight, and we can have a discussion then about conditions, or we say no tonight, and the judge is gonna say yes or no to this thing in its entirety. I don't think there'd be any conditions there. My own personal opinion.
Mr. Grabowski?
I don't believe the application in front of you allows you to put any conditions. It's a yes or no question. Either you're going to
Uphold the building inspector's decision.
You're either going to uphold the building inspector's decision, or you're not going to uphold it. There's no motion here to give.
That's what I've been saying right along, Arthur.
Huh?
I've been saying that right along.
There's no way.
I'm not disagreeing with it.
There's no way to put, so that's a spurious argument.
I'm
that you
trying to
can
make
put
the question
conditions on.
simple. Building department's decision, yes or no? That's where it is. I'm not getting in, going beyond that. Yes.
Just a quick question. So if they abandon the use as residential, does that mean anything? I mean, it's zoned residential. They're saying that someone's living there now, but they're saying no one's going to live there. Is that an abandonment of that use?
Of that part of that use, that would be, if they intend, they could have, I would think that would be an abandonment of that use, but we're not even at that point. We're well beyond, you're getting well beyond the point where we're at.
Well, no, but she said that's what's gonna happen. If they're granted this, they're gonna put their tuck shop there and no one's gonna live there. That's scary to me if that makes that use no longer residential.
There's no
Then-
special
Be
permit for
strictly
residential
business
use.
use.
All right, yeah, so that's scary, we didn't know that.
There's
That's
nothing to
very
abandon.
scary. So we've lost our, yeah.
No, Mr. Chairman, no, I think there's a misunderstanding. What we're saying is we're not, the Petries at one point filed for a special permit. There was a house behind the shed or whatever it was where they were selling the flowers. At some point, they came to the town and said, we want to tear down the house, move the building forward, and build up to put an apartment in for Mrs. Petrie or whoever it was to live there because she was because she was physically handicapped. And so the board allowed essentially a mixed use. You can continue your non-conforming commercial use as a florist, and then you can have the residential use in the apartment upstairs. When they subsequently came back in 1998, I believe it was, it says right in the decision, we've abandoned, we're not looking to continue, when they changed the roof line, they said we're no longer looking to have the apartment used as residential upstairs. So frankly, her son probably shouldn't even be in there right now. But we're saying we disavow that use, nobody's gonna live there, it will be strictly a business in a non-conforming business in a residential zone. If at any point, either A, she tears down the building and abandons the use, or ceases to use it for 2 years, or at least 2 years according to the statute, then it would automatically revert to residential because that's what the underlying zoning is. So I just wanted to clarify to you
If it's
that
abandoned, so I had the opposite question. If it's abandoned as residential,
you can't abandon it as residential. It is
so
residential.
it's residential period?
It's residential
Okay.
unless your town meeting changes the zoning for the district. It will always be residential unless the town meeting
Can
changes.
I ask you what you're talking about, the roof line?
Yeah, at one point, there's a 1998 decision that talked about, they came in, they got permission to change their roof
They
line.
got permission to put a second
No,
floor
they
on.
got permission, the building was not reconstructed. They actually brought a building down from North Saugus on a trailer and put it in place of the building that was there.
Okay.
No, I
Well, that's not what it
talked
says
to
in the
guy that I
opinion.
bought it from, at one, in the 90s, he was gonna go up, but he didn't.
No, it couldn't go.
Right, but he went through the motions, that's what he's talking about. He went to court in the
Okay,
motions
because
to
I'm
add
saying-
addition, but he didn't build an addition.
Just, again, I'm
No,
sorry.
because I'm just saying that they brought a building down from North Saugus.
But ma'am, this is reading from the 1998 decision. Let's see, Attorney Richard Magnan, 325 Central Street, appeared for his client Edward Gaynor. Petrie's florist stated Mr. Gaynor would like to raise the roof line of an existing single-story structure to match the roof line of the existing two-story addition. So there was a two-story addition, but that's what the 1998,
Okay,
that's what I'm talking about, the roof
The
line.
big building wasn't changed. It was a small.
That's all we got going before
Yeah, it came down on a big thing all the way down the highway.
Okay, so, do I have anyone else? Last call. Yes, sir.
Can we ask, to the best of their ability, the position of the board?
That's what we're getting to. That's what we're trying to get to. That's what I'm trying to get to. That's exactly what I'm trying to get to. You got it. That's what I'm trying to get to call for a vote.
Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Rossetti.
move to end public discussion.
Okay, we ended public discussion. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
in order to make this simple, okay, so there's no confusion about the vote. A yes vote would uphold the building inspector, a no vote would deny the building inspector.
Right, and we need
Okay.
we need a supermajority, which is considered 4 out of 5.
Right.
So we need 4 noes.
4 yeses.
Let me finish. We need 4 noes to state that the building inspector's decision was wrong. If we say yes, we need 4 yeses to say that the building inspector's decision was correct. Okay? Anything, if it's 3-2, 2-3, whatever, it's a loser. The building inspector's opinion stays in place. So we have to have 4 of us has to say, we disagree with the building inspector.
But it's the building inspector.
Excuse me? Then that's the question in front of us. Not the 2 years, not all of that, as Mr. Turco pointed out, whether that's really, whether the building decision, his decision was correct, and his decision was also the opinion, basically, of Mr. Vassapoli. So we're in a very difficult position as members of the board. I just want to point out that if we do say no, we're stating that the building inspector and the town council were wrong. Okay? And it's pretty hazy, and that's why I think that's gonna take probably parties that I'm not afraid to say, I know I'm kind of kicking it down the road when I say it's gonna end up in court, but people that are more qualified than myself or my board members to make this final decision. And I hope I didn't try to dirty the waters by even explaining it that way. I'm just trying to be fair to let everyone know where we are. So that being said, Peter, you want to read it in?
Sure.
And so that Mr. Cannon hasn't spoken really. Like I mentioned before, there's 6 of us. He sat out this decision because he wasn't here last month.
Correct.
So that's why he hasn't been commenting on anything.
Okay.
Mr. Rossetti.
Okay. On the petition of 320 Revere Beach Parkway LLC, owner of property at 409 Linfeld Parkway, Lot 57, Plan 1036, seeking an appeal to the building inspector to change the current non-conforming use from retail floral in a residential zone to retail suit tuxedo sale rental with retail floral sales in a residential zone. So we're phrasing it in the,
Phrasing as a yes oppose the
a
decision.
yes would oppose the building inspector.
A yes upholds what the building. A yes is upholds the building
Uphold it.
inspector.
So, yes.
Yes means we agree with the building inspector.
Yes, okay.
Okay, everyone got that? It's very important. You understand that, Bob?
I think so.
Okay. Well, then what's your answer?
No.
Mr. Northrop? No. Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Ms. Morano?
Yes.
And the chairman's yes also. So it's 4-1 to uphold the building inspector's decision. Okay, and thank you,
This will not
Mr.
be
Turk.
the end of this.
And we know it's not the end, but I want to thank Mr. Turco and Mrs. Russo, because I know it's not an easy thing. And I appreciate and thank you for your patience with us. And I hope that everyone is respectful to them and what, she's running a business, she's a businesswoman. She's not, hopefully some way this will come to some final conclusion that works for all.
Thank you very much, board.
And Mr. Turco, Stephanie should be back in the office. Mr. Turco, Stephanie should be back in the office tomorrow.
Perfect.
If not on a Thursday.
Okay.
You get going on
Very good.
whatever you do next.
We will. Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
No, I got you. I was gonna put it on.
When you go home, I want you to Google Dover Amendment.
What is it?
Dover, D-O-V-R Amendment.
Amendment. Am I gonna be happy or sad?
It's how the Goddard School got in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no
You have an
kidding.
educational component.
Stephen, how are you, buddy? Good. What's going on? Nice to
Do
see
everything.
you. What? Is she number 5?
Which could be the nursery school.
How you doing?
Good. How's things?
Sober house.
Good. What are you doing?
An addition.
Okay. Sorry you got stuck in this long line.
And you don't want, and for this town, I couldn't say that.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
I couldn't say, you're in an up.
And the uses that we could put.
If I said that, I would have been just get the guns out, right? But it's a fact, it's what they wish for.
I know.
Too bad they can't.
It's been tense, but thank you very much for your time.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
We have 3 more petitions, so we still have 3 more petitions and nobody's emptying out. We still got too many people in the room. Please clear the room if you want. They're working their way out.
Okay.
On this one, I apologize for the way I pronounce my Spanish or Portuguese or whatever aren't very good, okay? On the petition of Primera Iglesia Bautista de Boston, owners of property of 31 Main Street, lot number 86, plan number 1001, requesting a variance for a 9.5 foot times 4 foot LED. Is the petitioner here?
Yes. Yes.
If you could come to the, your name and address, please?
Pastor Graupera, Graupera, Senior Minister at Primera Iglesia Bautista de Boston, Pilgrim's Church of Boston.
Okay.
Good to see you, Chairman Traverse, from several years back. Members of the board, thank you for listening to us tonight. I'm not going to go into the full history of our property. It was First Unitarian Church of Saugus, starting in 1861. And they sold in 2007. We came in 2007 and have been members of the community since then, and appreciate this board's time on a very hectic night. When we came in, so 7 for the 2 signs that are presently there, and I think you see.
If I can interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
I don't really see anything wrong with the petition. I just don't think it was advertised properly.
Okay.
Because when I look at it, it's just talking about one sign. In the ad for it, it only talks about that one sign, 9.5 by 4. It doesn't talk, and I know you're looking for 2 signs, am I correct?
Well, if you look at the first picture on what the company, MSC,
Yeah.
generated, you see the 2 old signs, which have been there for the past 17 years. And we are trying to modernize them because they are they're poorly lit. They're old signs, they're falling apart. We have been very careful with the property over many years. We are familiar with the board. The board knows us. We've tried to keep the historic nature of the property being on Main Street and be part of the community. We're looking to update the signs. The one that's up above would be modernized to be an LED type sign.
Internally lit?
It's an outdoor LED.
Yes.
I'm gonna ask Uber.
Hello.
As we mentioned before, your name and address, but we're in.
Yeah, my name is Uber Londoño. We are
He's the contractor.
the contractor. Yeah.
So it's internally lit?
Yes, only.
And this, we're talking the sign above the front door.
Above the front door.
And it's at the 9.5 one, that's the one that measures
What is the?
Yeah, it's-
9.5 by 4 foot?
Yeah, it's because this sign need a special permit because it's a
LED.
LED sign. This
Okay.
is the reason because.
And so that's what the
Okay.
the inspector wasn't in favor or against. He said it needs to be approved. It's an LED sign.
Okay.
And then the other sign would just be an outdoor light box, so it's actually lit.
Where the one is, and that would be
The
internally
one that's
lit.
on the lawn.
And that's internally lit too?
Right now it has
No,
one
just light.
spotlight.
Right, are you gonna continue with one spotlight, or are you gonna internally light it?
No, this is just light, LED lights.
No, the one down below will be a light box.
We're talking about
Yes,
the one on
light
the
box.
lawn.
It's gonna be inside, lit
Inside
inside?
the
Inside the sign.
So
inside
it's
the
internally lit?
Yes,
interior.
that's exactly
Okay.
right.
And I certainly, I don't have an issue with that, either one of these signs. One thing that I've noticed, and you're the professional, is a couple of signs around Saugus that are very nice signs in front of other churches, but you could see them from outer space. They're just so bright. And the only condition that I might want to make, and this seems a little bit funny, is that after it's up there, if we can check the illumination to make sure that it isn't so bright. I mean, I asked the building inspector, you know, and it's hard to speak to a church and say, you're struck down by lightning or something. But it's, this church,
God willing, no.
the sign is so light on the front lawn,
Yes.
it lights up the whole neighborhood.
Right.
And there's really no need of it being that bright.
Right.
This is a busy corner. So I think there's an amount of light that we can keep it down to. I don't know the engineering or the the technicalities of the level, but I might want to make a condition that we've revisited after 30 days by the building inspector, after dark, to check the light, to make sure that it's not.
And your bigger concern is at night, is that right?
Oh, yeah, because
Okay,
in the
yes,
daytime, it's
yes.
not lit up.
Right, right, who
Can't see
cares?
the light
Yes.
anyway, so it's just at night.
If
Though-
maybe you could turn it off at 10 o'clock, 11
Okay.
o'clock at night.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I was gonna say.
Right.
Um,
Or turn it down, yes.
If it's turned down out on the lawn,
Yes.
I don't see why that can't go all night. But the one up above, maybe you turn, that maybe even goes off after, an hour after church activities for the evening. Would you be all right with that?
So the good thing about both of these signs is they're really facing Main Street, so they're away from our neighbors. I don't think there's an
But
issue.
there are neighbors right across the street.
I'm sorry?
You got neighbors right across the street.
The real estate company across the street and the historical society.
Well, there's a couple of houses.
I'm sorry?
There's a couple of houses, there's a couple.
Apartment building across the street?
I don't know
Across
if
the
there, I don't
street,
know if there,
think
I don't know if
is-
there's
is a
residents
TV.
there.
Is a TV building, the cable company's across the street.
Yeah, I don't know if there's residents actually living
There
there.
isn't in the cable building, but right beside that, there's those houses going down.
There
There's
is
residents there.
catty corner
The real
to us,
estate company has
absolutely.
apartments above it.
Corner where the old chiropractor used to have the building. They're
And where
their
the real
residents.
estate is, there are apartments above that.
Okay, I'm
There's like
not
6
aware.
apartments in that building.
Yeah, I'm not even aware about
Yeah,
that one.
there's apartments above this, so there's residents right there. So that's the only reason why I might wanna see if we can keep the lights down a little bit.
And are you
I'm not
more-
against what you're trying to do at all. I think it modernizes the building, I think it will look good.
Are you concerned, Mr. Chairman, more about the LED one on the building or the one on the lawn?
Probably more the one on the building.
On the
I mean,
building, okay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I just don't wanna light up, I mean, I'm not afraid to say it, cause it's a very good, but drive by St. John's and you'll see what I mean.
Yeah.
Down on
Okay.
Central Street. They do a very good job of not,
St. John's Episcopalian?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
it's,
I'm familiar with
if
it.
you leave here and you took a left,
Yes, I know
as
exactly.
soon as you take the left, it's bang.
Yes.
It's very, very bright. And, I mean, I'm asked the building inspector this, his neighbors had said something too, about bringing down the decibels on it. if that's
I think we
what they
can,
want,
we can
whatever
work,
they call
I think we can
Yeah, we
work
can make the, in the night.
with the
different
inspector to
design, yeah.
to decide on
Yeah,
bringing
on
it
what's a
down.
good level and
Bring
work
it
together
down.
with it.
And we could even consider after a certain time, 10, 11,
Right, I
where
would
one,
think-
where one sign
I mean, you don't really
remains
have,
to identify the property, but not necessarily both.
yeah, like on the building, you don't have activities usually going on after
Right.
10 o'clock at night.
No.
So I don't see any reason, an hour after activities or at 10 o'clock at night, to shut off the one on the building.
We can work with the inspector for
And
determining that.
As far as that sign, the lawn, just make sure they're not so bright that they're at a reasonable level.
Right.
So you
I
can't
would
see
want,
them.
I would want to have at least one sign just to identify the property when we're
I'm
not
saying-
there.
And if there
So
was
if
only
people
one
are-
sign
are
lit at
using
night,
it as a
I would think
landmark.
the monument sign down the lawn
Yes.
would be the one to keep on.
Yes, just because it's a landmark, and people say, when you drive past, and I want them
Oh,
to
yeah.
have a landmark.
Oh, no, and I know the sign needs to be modernized, it's obvious. Any questions or comments on the board? Who's sitting out this one? Did we decide that?
I believe Bob is.
Yeah.
Bob, you're sitting out this one.
Yeah. Close public hearing?
So there's no comments? Any comments from the audience? Anybody for or against? Okay, close the hearing.
Second.
And who wants to read this in?
On the petition of Primera Iglesia Bautista de Boston, owners of property at 31 Main Street, lot number 86, plan number 1001, requesting variance for 9.5 foot by 4 foot LED programmable digital church sign. Make the motion to approve the variance where the
Subject to
rationale is based on-
shutting off 1 hour after activities or 10 o'clock at night.
Yes.
Okay.
Based upon the shape, soil, topography, and the position of the land on the lot.
And then
House on the lot.
we're talking about the sign on the building right
That's
now.
the sign on the building we're referring to.
Right, and
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
yes, and the other condition on that without approving is 30 days after installation, the building department will meet with the petitioner to check that the illumination is reasonable. That sound good? Not too professional, but you know what I'm trying to say.
We will work with him.
Okay. Okay? So moved. And then we have to deal with the second sign, which is down on the lawn, a freestanding monument type sign,
And that.
which
also
measures, we have those measurements somewhere, don't we? I believe so.
Yeah, just permission to renovate, upgrade,
To renovate the existing
yeah.
monument sign, upgrade it to LED. And
Right.
same condition.
And that one, I think he said.
That
it
one
just
will
had
not be
one-
LED.
It's illuminated.
Illuminated light box.
Illuminated,
Light box, sir.
and that one, I don't think you need to put a condition that it burns off.
And that's the light box 4x5.
That's right, Mr. Chairman. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And it will not be
Yeah,
LED.
this is a stencil code. We cut the letters in the face, the metal. That's not all. Yeah.
Like the same thing.
Do I have
The
a?
reader board is distracting.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
it should be
Driving
listed
down the
reader
street.
board, it's
Yes.
not a reader board. Reader board is where those scrolling
Yes,
letters
yes.
go across.
Yes.
That's not what this is, and I know we kind of stretched the rules a little bit where it might not have been advertised properly, but I don't see anybody disputing it in the audience, so
Yeah.
I don't really have an issue with that. Do I have a second to Mr. Riley's motions?
I'll second Mr. Riley's motion.
Okay. Mr. Riley,
Yes.
we're taking them both.
And
Okay.
yes. Yes.
Mr. Cannon, Mr. Rossetti,
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
Morano, and the chairman's yes also. You're all set. Stephanie, the clerk, was not here tonight. She'll be back here. I know you just walked in next door.
I know her. She's wonderful.
Yeah, she's here
Gentle
too,
lady,
usually noon.
gentle lady, gentlemen, thank you so much. God bless you. We appreciate your service to our town.
Okay, she should be in tomorrow. She may be in tomorrow. She's coming back from vacation, but she'll definitely be here Thursday. On the petition of Keith Littlefield, owners of properties at 24 Main Street, lot number 5 enclosed, lot number 5, plan number 1011, seeking a special permit to add a second-story addition with a 5x21 enclosed stairwell and adding a 10x10 elevator and a variance for a pre-existing 13.6 front yard setback where 20.2 is required, which is a mistake, it's just 20.
Right, should be 20.
And a pre-existing size 7.9 side yard off the garage where 10 foot is required. And the petitioner and his representative are here?
Yeah, so I'm Brandon Nolan, professional land surveyor, Audie and Dwyer, 59 Appleton Street. And I have Tim Hogan.
So you're the new guy down with Dave.
Yes, I am.
I heard there was a new guy.
Yep. Yeah, second meeting ever, so.
Okay, give me an idea. I know it's a fairly busy plan.
Yeah,
as I looked at
so,
it.
so the main addition is a two-story addition towards the rear. And there's a couple of access, proposed elevator and stairwell. Those are all within the zoning.
I believe the proposed handicap and the ramp in the front would be the closest to the property line, but we're not really increasing the nonconformity of the main building, I would say.
Yeah, I don't, handicap ramp does it have anything above it?
No.
So would that even count as lot coverage? We deal with, I don't think we deal with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It could be, you and Dave would know better than I do usually, but I don't think we deal with it because it doesn't,
Right,
it's
right.
less than 4
Yeah,
feet.
and
It doesn't
I
have
didn't
a
even
canopy
show
above it.
a dimension on there, so, yeah. Yep.
Do I have any questions from the board for the surveyor? Who's sitting out on this one? Who's sitting out, guys?
I think it's Chris.
I'm sitting out Gilday.
Sitting out Gilway? Yeah. I don't know who's there. Chris is out on this one.
Stephanie, you're sitting out.
Okay.
Okay. It makes it easy. I don't know.
I got the.
And I forgot to ask you on the other one if you did find anything in there, but I'm sure you did. All right. Any questions from the board?
Just curious, what's the building gonna be used for?
Daycare.
The entire building?
Yes.
Up and down?
Up and down. That's why we have the proposed elevator. I'm just throwing it in there. The handicap ramp might do it. We gotta go in front of the state for that.
So you think the handicap
It may
ramp
do it,
may
yeah.
satisfy
Because we're gonna
people?
suit all the ages at the first level, so
Okay.
no one has to go to, that's a whole different argument, but that's for the state.
Okay.
Yeah. I just wanna get it in here, so I
But
don't
you
have
wanted to put it down here in
Yeah,
case it
so I
doesn't
don't
come
have to
in.
come back. yeah.
I also received a phone call from Anthony Cogliano supporting this petition.
Okay.
He said he's known the Hogans for quite a good period of time, and they have a good business. And even Janice says, supports what you want to do.
Thank you, Janice.
Very nice.
Janice also called
Yeah.
and
I didn't
mentioned
call
her.
you.
We were on the phone and talking about something else. All right. I really don't have any questions. It seems a little bit of a complicated plan, but everything seems to be straightforward and drawn out properly.
Yeah.
It's good to see it's been empty for a while, and it's good that somebody's going in there.
Yeah.
Thank you for a long time.
I think it's
And anyone
I think you
speak
do
in-
well there for that type of business too.
Thanks.
I think people in Saugus will love to have something
Yeah. Anyone in the
that's
audience?
professional
Public-
down there.
Public hearing.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment on something? Yes.
Can I get, hi.
Come on up.
Oh.
Yeah, that microphone.
Good evening, Janice Gerose, 5 Wilson Street, Saugus. I've known Tim Hogan and his family for 30 years. He does a great job. His wife has a beautiful daycare center over, near the old pool place on Route 1. With
The
Howard
old
Johnson's used to be.
You were in there right now.
Does everybody remember Howard Johnson's? Only me?
No, I remember it.
But I know he's going to do a great job for the town, and we're very fortunate to have somebody like this wanting to open up another daycare center.
Great.
Okay?
Good job.
Marilyn Donovan, 19 Columbus Ave, Director Butter.
Okay.
I agree with you. Anything will be better than what's there now. This place has looked like an abandoned property for some time. It's terrible. There is a 5-foot buffer zone currently on this property. What the last person did was, we bought our home in '85.
Are you directly behind it?
We are. We're the yellow house right behind it.
On the corner?
Yes, on the corner.
Okay.
What the last person did, when we bought the house in '85, that was a beautiful piece of property. It was a single-family home. There was all green grass.
The laundromat wasn't in there yet?
No, there was all flowers along the edge. I'm telling you, it was gorgeous. The laundromat came in, they blacktopped everything, and now we've lived with this. I've called the town because there's been a dumpster, there's been, that was me. there was a mattress, there's construction material there now. So a daycare, do you currently own the property?
No, no. It's a, if we pass this, that's what we're gonna do.
Okay, because I was wondering, because I know it is for sale.
Well,
Well, it's under contract, we're under contract.
a realtor, a developer owns it right now.
Right,
And
right.
if
With the
this
intent-
goes through, your intention is then to purchase the property farm.
Right.
If this passes.
And I
You
heard
talk
in-
about your
yes.
5-foot buffer zone?
There's
I'm just looking on the
Well,
map where it
from
says,
our fence line, if you go to the back end of that property, from our fence line, there's another fence there.
okay.
Yeah, it shows the
And then
vinyl
it's
and wood
asphalt,
fence
and
along
then
your
it's asphalt,
property.
there's not any building.
Right,
there's
we
a
have
chain
an
It's not
8-foot
5 foot from
fence,
a,
and then
but it's
there's
not
a
5
chain
foot from a
link.
building.
It's from our
Okay.
property line to that, because there was supposed to be a 5-foot kept buffer zone,
Okay,
and they didn't keep it. What they did was they put up a chain link fence, and they never did anything to it. Actually, my
Okay, I
husband's
see
been
that.
the one who's been keeping that part of the property, and we've actually put plantings on the end so you can't see down there, because there's been some shenanigans back there.
okay.
No more.
Well,
Hopefully this will,
yes, anything
Help the
would be
neighborhood.
better than what's there now.
like you said, it's been abandoned for too long.
It has,
And I don't
yeah.
think the laundromat was the best neighbors anyway.
They were not. They were not.
I'll give you my number before we leave.
All right, come over for coffee.
Yeah.
Anybody else in the audience? Ms. Patego, you only owned the daycare, what, 40 years?
It's a wonderful thing. And you know what? You're not there at night, you're
Yeah.
not there weekends.
Okay.
You're gonna like 7:30 to 4, no weekends.
I'm out of the house at 5, so that's great.
Mr. Chairman.
You wanna go to Everett, let me know.
I'll second
Oh,
that.
no, this is it.
Move to close the hearing?
Yep.
Seconded?
Okay. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Okay. On petition of Keith Littlefield, owner of property at 24 Main, Lot 5, Plan 1011, seeking a special permit to add a second-story addition with a 5x21 enclosed stairwell and adding a 10x10 elevator. Grounds for the petition would be that it be no more detrimental. Don't think there's any specific conditions. You're not gonna operate on weekends, you're not gonna operate in the evenings, anything like that?
Nope.
Fortunately, there's no mixed
Say that
use.
on the record.
Even
Really?
going down the road, there's no mixed use allowed in Saugus,
Yeah.
which is
That's it.
What do you mean by
ridiculous.
mixed use?
Your second floor could be a residence and then a business on the first floor. Anything that's in Saugus is grandfathered in. It's been there for 40 years.
So it could be residence, you're saying?
It can't be.
No.
Cannot, it cannot.
Cannot be.
You
Unless-
can't live in the
unless-
property and have the daycare.
Laws get
Right.
changed. Okay, so I had a second on that?
Seconded.
All right, who's sitting out, Bob? Who's sitting out? Stephanie. Bob, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti, and yes. And that's all there is, it's just a special permit,
No,
correct?
there's also a
And
variance.
it's also a variance.
Yes.
And we'll take the variances all at once?
Variance for pre-existing 13.6 front yard setback where 20.2 is, it's supposed to be 20.
Should be
is
20.
it?
20, yes.
Yeah, 20 is required, and a pre-existing 6.9 side yard setback off the garage where 10 is required. Grounds would be the shape of the lot, the topography, and the soil conditions. And again, no need for special conditions.
Seconded,
Seconded.
and on that, Mr. Northup,
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti,
Yes.
and the chairman is also a yes. You're all set?
All right.
Thank you very much.
The clerk, Stephanie should be back in the, she should be back in the office tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
Good job in your second meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, right.
So bad, just sort of wait.
Go get him. Go to sleep.
On the petition of Patricia Battaglia family, of the Patricia Battaglia Family Trust, owners of property at 14 Gilway Street, lot number 0970, plan number 10360, seeking a special permit to build a 6x13 addition to existing bedroom and a variance for a pre-existing 12.1 side yard setback where 15 is required.
Yeah, but when we built it was 10. Not that you care, but it was only a 10-foot setback on the side when we built in the 50s.
What is it now, though?
I don't know what it is.
It's 12.1 feet.
Yeah. So I'm looking to, what?
Patricia, and you are?
Oh.
I'm William Stuffle, 25 Golden Hills Road,
Thank
Saugus,
God
Mass.
for him.
And
I've known him for years.
Just assisting her as family friend, just to
Right.
help her through
Okay.
the process.
Okay. What do you need?
Just tell her you want-
Oh,
you want to do the
so
addition.
I want to make this room a little bigger because it was good when you were up to like 14, 15, even 18, but now my daughter is 28 and she went to UMass Amherst, got her degree, and now COVID set her back, but she wants to go back to school and therefore she wants to be a PA, so she's going to stay home.
Okay.
But she went to school, she lived there, so, so I need to make the room bigger. And I just don't want to do like a half, I don't know what word to use besides
You wanna
ass,
go-
but halfway type of
Yeah,
thing.
you
I'm
wanna
gonna
do
do
it
the
right.
basement, I'm gonna do it
You wanna
right.
do it right.
Right, I don't do things like halfway.
Okay.
Halfway is the word.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the audience?
There isn't an audience.
All right,
Oh, yeah, well, let's see.
hearing
Let's
is
see.
closed,
Second?
and that's been seconded. And who wants to read this?
I'll read it.
Okay, Bob?
On the petition of Patricia
Battaglia.
Taglia.
Tagliera Family Trust, owners of property at 14 Gilway Street, lot 0970, plan 10360, seeking a special permit to build a 6-foot by 13-foot addition to existing bedroom and a
Alright, stop.
variance.
Stop.
Okay.
And conditions are that it's to remain a single-family home. Any other conditions anyone can think of? And do I have a second on that?
Second.
All right, and Chris, you're off on this, so, Mr. Northup,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti,
Yes.
Ms. Romano,
Yes.
and the chairman's yes. And then
Yippee.
to continue,
Yay.
Okay, and a variance for a pre-existing 12.1 foot side yard setback where 15 is required.
and same conditions remain a single-family
Same.
house. And is that seconded? Yes.
Seconded.
And Mr. Northup,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti,
Yes.
Ms. Romano,
Yes.
Mr. Travis, myself is yes. You're all set.
Thank you very
And,
much, everybody.
Sorry, thank you for your patience. I know it was a long night.
That's all right.
Stephanie should be back in the office tomorrow.
All right, I'll remind
Or
her.
on Thursday.
Thank you, Tom.
Bye.
See you later. I guess we're the only ones left.
Unless Janice can
All right.
speak
No,
against it.
I just want to say on the table, I mean, I'm sat here.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right?
I wanted to say I approve them and I want to wish them good luck. and
Thank
what
you.
they want to do.
Thank
No, I
you.
Do you know what
Yeah,
they
go
want to
home.
do? No, you don't even know.
Yeah, we do.
I've got the plans, I know everything.
You just said it for 3 hours.
On the petition of
I
24
know.
Farrington Ave.
I know.
Realty Trust, owners of property at 24 Farrington Ave, lot number 208, plan number 2027, a special permit to add a 22.3 by 24 foot sunroom and a 32 by 36 bedroom addition and a variance for 73.4 lot coverage where 25% is required.
Mr. Chairman, I'm recusing myself on this one.
Yes, excuse me. Mr. Rossetti has a cousin, I believe that's a neighbor, out on Essex Street. So he's recusing himself. He's sitting out on it, okay? As I looked at the plan on this, as you know, the big thing is 25% coverage. You're at 73. We've never come close to approving anything near that type of lot coverage. However, when I look at it, I question your plan seriously. And I don't know if it would make a difference depending on how the board sees it. But it doesn't look like that 73% lot coverage to me. It looks like, to me, your surveyor counted, you don't count a pool that doesn't have a canopy above it in lot coverage.
Yeah, he wasn't sure about that.
Yeah.
You don't cover, you got pavers down there. Pavers aren't lot coverage.
Oh.
So by looking at this plan, I mean, to the naked eye, could it be 50%, which is still a lot?
Right.
I'm not saying it isn't, but it's not 73%.
No, I think you made a mistake on that.
And the whole thing is, I apologize, I didn't get down there till yesterday, and Stephanie was away. I know it was too short a time period probably for you to get this rebuilt, and I just want to mention to you again, I'm not saying that if you get this right and it comes to 50% lot coverage, we're going to approve it, because that's still double, that's what's allowed. But I know we're not doing 73%. I know that this has to be corrected. There's no question on that. Before you even present, we can talk about some other issues that might potentially there with the property. Now, what do you want to do? You're adding a bedroom?
So we're adding, we're taking my parents in to live with us. My mom can no longer care for herself, so we're gonna help them.
Okay.
So when I have my two boys that live there, my adult boy, which is 24 and 27, and then I have a 10-year-old daughter. And we just took my 90-year-old mother-in-law in with us because my father-in-law passed away.
Okay.
So it's been a lot, you know, and even coming tonight, his sister's in hospice. So we didn't think we'd be here this long. So that's what we're doing with it.
Right.
They're gonna be in
There's
there.
some things we should point out to when, like I mentioned earlier in the evening, and some people don't take this to heart.
Yeah.
This is somewhat informal.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can go back and forth.
Yeah.
So, and they can interrupt me all I want.
Yeah.
If they think I'm going off and I transit somewhere. But you're not putting a second kitchen in the home.
No.
Okay.
We have our
Because-
kitchen. We wouldn't put a kitchen with them.
Well, I'm just saying, one of the zoning bylaws is that and it's kind of silly, and this may change over the next few years, the way this state is moving, is you can't expand your footprint to add an accessory unit. So if you're gonna
No, it's
put
going to
it
be
in-
attached. No, and there's not going to be. It's going to have like a. You know, we talked to the building inspector. You know that we're going to have
So it's
a.
just gonna be bedrooms?
Exactly. That's it.
And maybe another
And then,
bath.
yeah, just bedrooms, and then just like a downstairs storage, so they can put some of their stuff, like my mother's dishes and stuff.
All right. Do I have comments?
Will it be a bath?
Oh yeah, bathroom. Yeah.
You'll have an additional bathroom also?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I got out to see the property over the weekend. The calculation is clearly off.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
it's not-
nowhere close to 73%. When you walk around, there are still very significant setbacks on all sides, more than what we always require.
Right.
It's a beautiful house. I'm sure these are going to be very well done. I have no problem with it. I think it'd be a good addition, be a big increase in value to the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think we just have
As I
to-
said in a hearing we had a couple of weeks ago, we're looking for people to come and invest in town.
Yep.
You have people making a big investment here, for a really good purpose. There is a hardship involved. I would support it 100%.
Yeah. Mr. Gannon?
He said it best. Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Norfolk? Anything, Stephanie? I don't know how we can do, it's just that the plot plan is so far off. I'm not looking to, I know spring's coming. I know you're itching to get going on this, and I understand all that. But the plot plan is so far off. I just don't know how we can approve with what's in front of us. And I think I'd rip his head off. I think I'd ask, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know
We paid
how
a lot
much
of
you
money
paid
for
for
it.
it, I'm sure. A plot plan like this
Kind
today
of.
is
Kind
probably,
of.
Yeah.
is probably $1,000.
Oh.
Yeah, way more.
Way more. Way more.
And he doesn't know you don't count pool under lot coverage? I know. I'm just,
Mr. Chairman, speaking as a member of
as
the
a,
public,
as a,
they are under a time constraint. Perhaps it could be dealt with subject to the presentation of a new plot plan.
but what do we say, like, not to exceed 50% lot coverage?
No, pick a number.
I mean, I'll be right on him tomorrow morning. You know,
So you live on the property, what do you think it would include?
Yeah, well,
I think it's under 50, to be honest with you.
I wonder if he inverted the numbers from 73 to 37.
Well, you can't just do that.
I understand that, I'm just,
I would say if you said under 50, you'd probably be safe.
Pardon?
Yeah, I know. Give us a little leeway.
He'll come up with 49.
No, 55.
Go back to 51.
Just in case.
What, do you take the pool off?
11,000 square foot lot.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no question, it's a very busy lot, I mean,
Yeah.
so how many bedrooms is you gonna have once, this is after improved?
Two.
No, after
Oh.
improved. Not what you're adding.
Oh.
How many total bedrooms?
Oh, with our house, with like, how many
Everything.
altogether will be,
We have 4 now.
yeah,
You have 4?
yeah.
So this will give you
Yes.
6?
Because
You get
I know
2
my
adult
father likes
sons,
to go away from my
a
mother sometimes.
mother-in-law,
Yeah.
family,
Mm-hmm.
and every bed's got somebody in it.
And the dogs.
And the dogs have their own too. No?
Well, what do you think, Chris?
I'd be okay if we did it subject to a certain number. I think it's gonna come in clearly below 50. I'd be more than confident in that. What's the time constraint?
Kind of really got to get going.
I just want to get my mom into the house.
Because you don't, you understand,
Yeah,
I think,
understood.
you don't count
Situation
pavers, you don't count the parking
Yeah,
spaces.
you know.
I know.
You don't count the pool area unless it has, there's no canopy above
No.
that. It just, I just amazes me how the guy could come back and say he expects you're going to need approval when he sees 25
It's an interim.
required and 73%.
Right.
Like he thinks the zoning board of appeals is just gonna rubber stamp something like that.
It's an intern.
I mean, even if you did the quick math, I mean, I think it's well under, you know?
Well, it will be subject to a new plot plan being less than 50, and if it comes in over 50,
Okay,
you'd have to come back here again,
okay.
okay?
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I think we're definitely under 50.
Okay. It's gonna be subject to it coming, like I said, less than 50,
Okay,
or you have to come back here again.
okay.
And if you did come back here again, the building inspector could explain to you about moving forward with an as-is building permit, which means there's always some risks to it. Like, which means without, they give you a building, you can start and hope that nobody appeals it,
Okay.
if you really
Right.
get stuck. So at least maybe you can start some demolition and.
I mean,
footing.
we've talked to all the neighbors and everything, just, you know, to be upfront with everybody what we're doing. And, you know, nobody was opposed to it.
Yeah, I mean, you might be able to get going on footings pretty
Yeah.
quickly and doing some work.
Yeah, we went around to the neighbors.
Okay. So if you want to put it less than
Less than 50% lot coverage.
less than 50%, or you need to come back and we'd have to.
Okay.
Okay.
So all he has to just revise the plot plan.
A new plot plan.
Change
and
the
I wanna
coverage.
see-
New one, yeah.
I want to see that coverage less than 50.
Okay.
Okay.
If you take 6 inches off the back of the sunroof, then
There you go.
that gets you to 50, then do that.
Okay. Well, we definitely will.
Nobody in the audience?
Nobody, anybody in?
Move to close?
I second.
Seconded. On the petition of 24 Farrington Ave Realty Trust, owners of the property at 24 Farrington Ave, lot number 208, plan number 2027, a special permit to add a 22.3 by 24 foot sunroom and a 32 by 36 bedroom addition. Conditions being to, you know, one kitchen to remain in the house and to remain a single-family home.
Yes.
Do I have a second on that?
Seconded.
And Mr. Northup,
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And a variance for 73.4, excuse me, and a variance for 50% lot coverage, where 25%, less than 50% lot coverage, where 25 is required, or the petitioner would need to return for a variance for any other amount.
Yes.
Same conditions, remain a single-family home with just one kitchen in the house. And I don't know if you did, could you just, the clerk is gonna take this off the recording.
Okay.
So could you state your name and last name and address again?
It's Laurie Stratikos, 24 Farrington Ave,
Can you spell that?
Stratikos.
Okay. And your name is,
Stephen Williams, 24 Farrington Ave.
okay. You don't need to spell that.
Williams is an easy one.
So that's seconded, and Mr. Northup,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Rowley, Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Ms. Romano,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so you're all set.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you
Get
so
that
much.
done,
Take
get
care.
that,
We are
and get
good.
it to Stephanie.
Okay.
Okay. Get
And remember
just
you-
the plot plan to Stephanie?
Yeah, I want a new plot plan
Yep.
that shows the 50%,
Okay.
Okay,
okay?
great.
And I hope the family situation.
And Stephanie's at the town hall.
Stephanie is right,
Oh.
I keep on pointing over that way.
Yeah, she'll
That's
be
a
ready.
desk right
She's
there.
right there.
It's just a-
okay. I know Stephanie.
Yeah, Tom.
All right, thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much.
I appreciate all of
Read
you.
by
Thank you.
Stephanie.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Here, you're not supposed to.
Who says I can't read?
Huh?
Who says that?
Chair is not supposed to make motions.
I don't believe that. I watch
Mr.
all
That's
the
Robert's
time.
rules.
I watch
Mr. Chairman, motion
all
to
the
adjourn.
time, the planning board, and they do it all the time.
Well,
I second the
Board of
motion to
Selectmen,
adjourn.